Hello everybody. Earlier stream today, I I decided to skip my singing class. It's my last day off pretty much, and I have so much work to catch on. I was just like, I'm just gonna hunker down and take care of business because after tomorrow I'm gonna be quite busy. So, I guess here we go again. Oh wait, let me move my mic closer. I got my iced coffee today because I figured my coffee would get cold too fast. So I was going through the Catliente video. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys kind of know what today's about. I touched about it a little bit yesterday on stream. Obviously, I didn't cover this because I was confused about this Catliente video. As you can see, I've managed to get through like half of it, and while taking notes and timestamps. But we're gonna start it over for the stream. Basically, okay, to start from the very beginning, yesterday Catliente uploaded a video on May 13th about mismanagement of Dokibird's PC auction led an artist on for over a year. Now, which mic do you use? Shure 7MB, something like that. I don't know why, as I sound like I'm streaming from a toilet, but I swear I'm not. Anyway, tangent. So Catliente uploaded this video yesterday. I spoke about it on stream. I was like asking where she got her source from, which artist she is talking about, because all the names were redacted. And just because I didn't have any source for this and I couldn't verify any of the information, I held off on speaking about this because I was like, I don't know where this comes from. So, funnily enough, today, Dokibird drops this tweet saying, full statement on the PC charity auction and recent allegations, and it's directly because of that Catliente video. So I was very, very confused. I was very intrigued, as I had not watched the entire Catliente video by then. I had just watched a little bit of it, and I saw that she was actually the one who made the Google document cited in the video. So Catliente herself wrote that. Yeah, Catliente has been involved in a few VTuber controversies before. Like, she attacked that group of like lolly VTubers. She's very much anti-lolicon. She's also clickbaited Alicia's cancer, which is weird. Oh, thank you, Kendra. So which was weird. Like, I remember Alicia's tweet specifically saying that she has no issues with people making videos on her or topics that she's in, but she took specifically issue with somebody clickbaiting her cancer. Welcome to the Cute Squad, Josh. Thank you so much for the resub. Also, guys, if you please can, I know I said yesterday was the last day, but actually Twitch removed one day from my 30-day window. So I need you guys to open up the Twitch stream. We only need one more day above like 75 average viewers to fucking get partnership. Okay, I think there was some other Catliente controversies, but I can't recall now. I'd need a refresher. I'd probably need to watch like Rev's video on it or something. I have the memory of a goldfish. So I'm thinking, how should we go about this? Should we watch the video first, then read the Google Doci? Or do you guys want to read the Google Doci first, then go back to the video? Because the Google Doc is actually pretty short. Like, it's a very short read. But the video itself is very long. It's almost 2 hour long. It's gonna be 2 hour long with our commentary for sure. Thank you so much for the Twitch sub, Tackle. Thank you, thank you. What's wrong with not being okay with lolicon? There's nothing wrong with it, but accusing people of being like PDF files because they like lolicon is not cool. Docky first, get it out of the way. Yeah, let's do the... Okay, let's go do the Google Doc first for the people that have like short attention span. And we can always just revisit it after to compare some evidence. Exil! Thank you so much for the Twitch resub, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a very short read. It really doesn't take that long. And Akapoda, thank you so much for the Twitch sub. Damn, I'm getting a lot of love. Thank you. Okay. Full statement on the charity auction and recent allegations. So, oh, thank you, Ors VT, for their Twitch free sub as well. And Floranova. Wow, thank you. I hope you guys enjoy the emotes. I still don't understand why less comments are on the post, because she only allowed comments from people she knows. From people she follows or mentioned. That's why. Anyway, it was also posted like in the middle of the night. All right, let's read the Google Doc that Dokibird posted. Full statement on the charity auction and recent allegations. To everyone following the situation regarding the charity auction, I want to address the claims that have been circulating, particularly in a recent video. She's talking about Catliente's video here. Grail, thank you for the Twitch resub. Appreciate it. This has been an incredibly difficult experience, but I believe the full story deserves to be heard. First and foremost, I accept that the handling of this auction item was far from ideal. I want to sincerely apologize to those impacted, especially the winner, for the delays and confusion, and I tremendously appreciate the patience and support the winner has shown me. I take responsibility for how things unfolded. But I also need to be transparent about the challenges that were taking places behind the scene, many of which have not been shared publicly until now. Zoom in? Okay, yeah, I can zoom in. Yeah, it does look small on the stream. Is that good? Yuki, thank you for the Twitch resub, and DL Pharaoh, thank you. I appreciate it. Ooh, y'all came from YouTube. Thank you. Yeah, if you have a free Twitch Prime sub laying around, feel free to use it on me if you'd like, but no pressure. So is this size okay? Good? Okay, cool. So here she, acknowledges that her handling of the situation was far from ideal. She takes responsibility. It starts pretty well. Then she starts talking about challenges she faced in the background. I don't know if you guys remember, but Dokibird has had a few issues with management in the past. Like, for example, here, she tweeted, in the end, I am now, this was in September 3rd, 2024. In the end, I am now the new and only director of my own company. I at first thought to appoint someone else to act as director to handle the more business side of things, and I just want to focus on being creative. I like the experience and the knowledge to really run a company and thought it was best to appoint the position to someone else. However, every staff I've hired had a horror story that was related to my ex-director. Although the workload is much more heavier, I realized the only person I can trust in myself for my brand. I've recently hired a few lawyers and a new financial advisor to help me on this new journey and teach me how to be a proper businesswoman, lol. It may have been more expensive in the long run, but I just want to make people happy and laugh with me without my dragoons, worrying about anything else. I really appreciate everyone's patience as I stumble to try to find my footing. And in May, previously of that year, she was looking for Dokibird management team to hire new people to help out. Her main manager, Mr. Mann, will be taking a step back and focus on external, so they'll be looking for someone that handled the internal structure and the day-to-day communication in emails. Plus communicate with the Asia management team, as well as actively search for new sponsors and project, and then an event coordinator. Job will be coordinating with event, conventions, etc. So there's been quite a few swaps in management since then. Also some issues that I gather from that. Now, the Google Doc continues saying, I feel that it is time that I share this with everyone as I have come to terms with what has occurred in the summer. At the time this auction was concluding, I was in the middle of a serious and distressing transition. My previous management team had taken full control of my brand. And I was actively working with lawyers and police to reclaim ownership of Dokibird. What the hell? Like, this just starts off already so crazy. I wasn't aware that any of this was happening. During this time, I was also forced to move out of my home under police supervision. A situation so severe, it required formal reports and the help of a personal friend and staff. I was during this incredibly turbulent time that the charity item fell into the hands of my team while I was trying to survive and restart my life from the ground up. I won't go into too much detail, but this screenshot is a snapshot of how bad it was. And this, I believe, is dated July 29? The 7th month is July, right? Of 2024. She said, she just left. I only have a small window of time to leave the apartment before she comes back. Are the police coming? Because I won't be home when they do. The person she's talking to is saying, exit the apartment, they're almost there. Doki says, I'm packing up right now to leave. Redacted person says, grab a charger, officer's calling you, please let me know if everything's okay. So I'm not sure who she's referring to here when she says she just left. Sounds like somebody maybe they were living with, but it sounds quite serious. Now, to be fair, my team and I were under a lot of pressure. We still came out of this and had to immediately start to pick up the pieces of the business. And during this time, there was no attempt from the other side to follow up or reach out after the initial silence. My staff wasn't sure how to proceed, and I, truthfully, was overwhelmed and unable to manage the situation while trying to reestablish basic stability in my personal and professional life. Yeah, the police was that involved. The police was that involved. Hey Doki, there's a metric ton of work that still is unfinished and unaddressed, and as much as I like to give the room to let you settle in the move, shit needs to get done. We can't keep pushing things back. It's already unprofessional that things have been delayed this long. The charity auction still has multiple items that need addressing, the most important being the custom PC, which has still made no progress. And that will be, the custom PC is the topic of Catliente's video and this entire situation. This person continues saying, I've received another inquiry as to where the plan for it is. Bottom line is there needs to be a new builder arranged, or at least a budget of 6.6k USD allocated to either build the thing or reimburse the bidder in full. Eventually, I stepped back in personally to handle the PC build when it became clear it was dragging on too long. I contacted the builder myself and was informed of a prior medical emergency. Still, no follow-up. And still no follow-up ever came from them afterward, despite months passing, and I had to initiate contact again. As for the auction process itself, the starting bid was always intended to reflect the cost of the item. This was standard across all auction pieces, and many artists we work with can confirm this. I was confused when the PC build kept increasing in quoted price from 6k to 8k to 12k, then 14k, with no consistent rationale. I even offered to pay more than the original bid due to delays. But the shifting figures and eventually threat of daily penalties for missing an arbitrary deadline left me overwhelmed and unsure. If I could continue the partnership. The builder provided irrational hours in the time log, asking for obscene amounts and services we never agreed on. Eventually, I was told I'd owe 4k cancellation fee. Yet, I had not agreed to any finalized scope or cost. There was no contract signed between me, Dokibird, and them directly. here's one of the quotes they sent us. And I believe this is one of the screenshots that's being passed around on Twitter the most. Basically, 14K, and just for the... So this is the price of the parts, 3.8K, and then the total labor in USD, 6.3K in project production labor, and then 4.7K in pre-project labor estimate. So almost 11K USD in labor cost alone. I mean, on my tweet, there's somebody that builds custom PCs that replied, and I've also quoted people for custom PCs before. Like, I've asked for quotes, and it was nowhere near that price. But then I was like, okay, maybe this is just a really, like, bougie build, right? But then I also have somebody in the comments here, okay, I found it, saying that they've also worked on highly modded PCs, and they're saying it's nowhere. I've worked on teamed highly modded PCs that were actually worth 10 and 15K and had hundreds of hours of work behind them. Professional opinion, that builder is full of shit. Would love to know the name for shaming purposes. We know the name, actually, it's gonna come out later. I'll share one of my favorite inspiration works to show what a PC worth that much actually looks like. Not my work. The cables alone, including those not visible, just a tiny detail of the overall system, are easily 20 hours of physically painful work. And it's like this super high-end, fully customized, you know, PC. Like, everything inside is crazy. Now, if we take a look at, I guess this is relevant that I do show the image of the Doki PC, right? Let me just pull it up. So the Doki PC was supposed to be made by this artist called Celeste Fleur. She does a lot of TikToks featuring like kawaii PC builds, and that was the auction PC build. I think it's probably a lot of vinyl, a lot of, you know, printed pieces, but I think what was discussed was a hide PC case for the outside of it, and I feel like there's not that many, you know, modded pieces inside. Yeah, so it's a hide custom case and then a standard PC build inside. Well said, Tom. Exactly. I read this earlier and I side with Doki on this. Thank you for the resub, Eagle Gallon. Alicia's biggest simp. I like that. I like that. So, for custom water-cooled PC labor wouldn't be more than 1,500 to 2,000 USD over parts, and that would be if the PC was like 6 to 8K in parts. This quote is outright criminal. So it's basically like most of the work seems to be on, you know, the little additional art, like the bow detail, the lacing, the white stripes, etc. Maybe some 3D printing here and there for the bows. A beret motif on the side. Yeah, the white stripes. The majority of the cost list is specifically labor costs, which is what makes no sense. Very few PC builds, even custom, will reach 3 times labor costs and the actual part. Listen, I don't. Are you guys are you into PC building? So anyway, back to this. This is the quotes in USD here on the right, and on the left it's in British pound for the person asking in chat. So the rates in euro is, for the labor, it's around like almost 9,000 euros. Just business, Rima. Custom pre-build that go above 10k is a scam, MO. I guess that's what we're trying to find out. Now, let's continue. The timesheet they claim to have accumulated already for 120 hours, which my staff and I found untruthful, especially when I was not shown any proof of labor. We requested if there was a way to provide us proof, which was then also ignored. Through this, I asked for one thing multiple times, a time-lapse video of the PC build that was drafted, which the builder themselves had originally said existed. They told us it existed, and I asked if I could see it, but I was then ignored. I even stated in writing that I would pay the full amount, no questions asked. Despite multiple requests by me, my staff via email, it was never delivered. At this point, the builder's behavior was showing bad faith to me, the buyer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I feel like this topic is going to get pretty heated because there's obviously a lot of love for Dokibird. But, you know, I feel like I don't need to repeat this, but I will just in case. Obviously, don't direct any harassment towards the person involved, especially now that I've showed who the artist is, nor to Catliente. So Doki here inserts a screenshot where she says, "We have requested these items multiple times in various emails and DMs, and you have stated that you would provide them, but we still have yet to receive the items. We said that we are willing to provide compensation if these items were provided, so we do not understand why this has been ignored multiple times." Oh, thank you, Art Crime. Now, from an email from Dokibird's team, we see here them stating, "Hi, we have never agreed or communicated on any pricing of anything for you to make a quote for us, and that this would be a chargeable service. No other company does this, and you did not make it clear to us you are charging us for this as a service in any way, shape, or form when we reach out to you in 2025. So my assumption here is that the artist tried to charge them for the quote? Correct me if I'm wrong. You did not inform us that every time we interact, it would be charged. Wait, so they're charging for communications too. Wow, okay. You claim to have worked in the past before 2025 with Dokibird Production Inc. on things regarding a mock-up created about a year ago, and that you wish to get paid for those services provided, and that item isn't on your timesheet and wasn't charged, question mark. This raised even more question on our end because you stated that mock-ups was the work that was being charged for until you added the other items later on, with no tangible proof wrapped up as services that weren't communicated that this would cost money or further discussed, signed, or approved on. You have also disappeared for 6 months without notifying us in the beginning until 2 different management gave up talks with you. We also still have yet to receive the time-lapse video, which we requested multiple times, and you have stated that you would provide it to us. If you do not have the time-lapse video, then please tell us the truth that you do not have the video. Then came two incredibly personal accusations that crossed the line for me, that I was pocketing charity money and that I did this for a tax write-off. These were not only false, but deeply hurtful. All money from the bids went directly to the charity through Tiltify, sorry. I use Tiltify for my charity, so I should at least be able to pronounce it well. I paid artists out of... Tiltify is like a program, so like the money never goes through the creator. If you donate to charity, it goes directly through the charity. This is what the platform is for, is to ensure that there's, you know, not a three-way crossing for the money. It just goes from like, you know, whoever donates pockets directly into the charity, and the platform itself takes a small fee. I paid artists out of pocket, including shipping and production costs, and in some cases even covered or increased the rates myself. To be accused of using this for personal gain was crushing, especially as someone who has consistently tried to share what I have with others. Honestly, it just feels like, yo, the artist saw that Dokibird spent $100,000 out of her own pocket on her project last year, and they were like, yo, let me drive up the prices. Anyway, due to how emotionally charged the situation became, I chose to step away and let my team manage it more professionally. I was on a rare, long-awaited vacation at the time, while also suffering from severe food poisoning and still trying to resolve the situation behind the scenes. This was well documented on stream and on social media. Anyone who knows me knows I rarely take time off. This was a trip to Japan for my first LAN Apex event, which had been planned for months. Eventually, I worked with a new PC builder using my hide case. I upgraded all the parts at my own expense and tried to spend nearly 10k to deliver what was promised. Unfortunately, Amazon canceled my parts order shortly before the winner's travel date, meaning we could no longer deliver the PC in time. At that point, the winner and I mutually agreed that I would send them 7.5k to build their own non-team PC. We considered the matter resolved. So this is a screenshot of Doki showing the parts had been ordered. Here are all the parts. Also, all the parts were a total of 9,395 USD in the end. 2 days later, the video was posted after the payment had already been made and the issue had been settled. So this is very recent. April 20, 2025. So 2 days later, the video was posted after the payment had already been made and the issue had been settled. I'm not sure I understand this part because the video was posted here on May 13th. So not 2 days later, but maybe she's talking about when Catliente streamed it, which was 10 days ago. So Catliente's original stream, well, she claims herself was made 10 days prior. So that would make more sense, I believe. The video description and pinned comment were edited after the fact to say I had paid the auction winner, but it falsely implied I only did so because of public pressure. That's simply not true. She posted a screenshot of, you know, the money she sent to the buyer. Oh, 2 days after she paid the winner, not 2 days after the part order. Oh, okay, that makes sense because... Ah, thank you. Okay, so the money was sent on May 11th. The video was posted on May 13th. That makes a lot more sense. See, this is why I have you guys here to help piece this together. Thank you. Kat has added more edits to the pin now. We'll take a look at it after I'm done. We're almost done. I didn't screenshot anything from our conversation in the Discord group because I had hoped to resolve this privately without dragging it into the public eye, but in hindsight, that was naive. I've always tried to avoid public conflict, but now I'm being forced to defend myself from a one-sided narrative. The pain cuts deeper when I see people claiming I didn't want to pay because it was the most expensive item. That's not true. I've paid for other auction items valued even higher. And this was never about avoiding payment. It was about trying to navigate an increasingly confusing, emotionally fraught, and mismanaged situation in the middle of one of the hardest years of my life. For context, I've always tried to treat the artists I work with fairly. Sometimes I pay late because I'm overwhelmed or unwell, and as my community knows, I've faced numerous health and personal challenges lately, but I always pay. I've covered late fees, offered bonuses, and donated to artists in need. To now be accused of being manipulative or exploitative after everything I've given financially and emotionally is devastating. I'm not perfect, I get emotional, I talk from the heart, not always from a business-only place. And yes, I should have kept some personal matters out of these conversations, that's on me, but I'm only one person trying to keep everything afloat. To be called a manipulator or gaslighter when all I've done is try to fix things, learn, and grow is deeply unfair. This entire experience has broken my heart. This statement was not something I ever wanted to write, but after being repeatedly asked to say something, and after having personal pain used for public drama, I felt exploited, and I felt I had no choice. I hope this is the only time I'll have to speak on this. Moving forward, I will no longer be handling direct negotiations for my brand. I've learned that my emotional communication style makes me vulnerable to being misunderstood or misrepresented, and I don't want that to affect others. I hope people will take a moment to hear the full context, not just the most viral part of the story. Thank you to those who've shown patience, understanding, and support. Apologies for my break this week because I'm tired. All I want to do is spend time with my closest and only family right now as my dog had just got home after surgery and rehabilitation. I'm still learning, I'm still healing, and I'm still trying to do better every day. Yeah, Kat was the one that said they won't be able to put a dent in me. Talking about the VTuber community. Now, after this response, it seems that basically she made a first update that was there yesterday when I looked at the video. There finally has been a resolution to the situation and the buyer will be receiving a refund alongside an additional 1K for the troubles. The artist still has not been compensated for their involvement in this project, and I am pretty sure in the original pin there was a, diagonal smiley face, which I think was edited out. Let me just check. Do I have an older version of the screenshot? Oh yeah, I do. It's in my tweet. Nothing escapes my eye. The artist involved has not been compensated at all. Frowny face. I assume that now, facing some public backlash or pressure from the Google Doc, she's changed that. She made another video today after that pinned comment, by the way. It got something to do with vegan. Oh, I haven't had time to look at that yet. And then there's another update saying, update, as of today, has put out a statement of her side. Feel free to read it here and come to your own conclusions. About this statement specifically, the video description and pinned comment were edited after the fact to say I had paid the auction winner, but it falsely implied I only did so because of public pressure. That's simply not true. And she says, please, Katliete adds, please read the words written here and see where it says Doki paid because of public pressure. It does not. It was added after the video because the video was cut from a Twitch stream over a week ago and scheduled to go live at 10 a.m. And information about the refund was presented after the video was live. Disclaimer, please do not send hate to anyone mentioned in the video. Everything that is said is alleged, and there are always two sides to every story and the truth. I mean, yes, it seems that I don't know who involved. I mean, this is speculation. Probably the artist involved would make the most sense here, since the buyer was compensated. So I don't see why he would do that. She's kind of the only one with a motive that sent this information to Kat, and Kat made the document herself. She states that she wrote the document herself. On top of that, it seems like the group chats were sent to Catliente unredacted. So with all the users named there, she redacted them herself. Check the comment. That's where this pinned screenshot is from. What do you mean? Oh, the pinned comment. Oh, okay. The screenshot is this. I see. Okay, it really wasn't that complicated. I don't know why I bugged out on that. Okay, so she didn't, my bad, she didn't edit the smiley out of the message. That was just the pinned comment. I'm dumb. So this is the screenshot that I showed earlier. To clarify. So I think we're ready to take a look at the video now. This also links like the original VOD. The cursor is actually available for free for you guys if you want the Rima cursor pack. It has like a bunch of different ones too. I think I posted the link in my community tab and on Twitter. She does make it sound like Doki only paid the winner because of the video when she write it as an update. Update, the buyer has been refunded the original amount plus an extra 1K. However, the artist involved has not been compensated at all. Oh yes, I forgot to read that part, which is pretty important. Edit, to clarify, since people are wondering why everyone from this document is redacted except Doki, I chose to redact names if I think significant harm could come their way, either due to one party having a large and opinionated fan base, okay, and one party having a substantially larger audience that could be mobilized for harm, and other reasons I deem fit. Doki isn't redacted because this entire situation involved her auction, and redacting her name will not give enough context for people to understand the situation. Also, redacting the name of the person who needs to be accountable makes no sense. I know most people who have this sentiment are just Dokibird fans confused why their Oshi is being criticized, but felt adding this clarification would help confused parties as to why so many names are redacted. I mean, I feel like usually the artist's name, when it comes to these quote-unquote art feuds, is available. I mean, I want to know who's making those accusations. I feel like hiding behind a redacted name is not cool. Hi, Lastanza. It kind of feels like, I mean, I could see how this video could look like an attack on Dokibird. All right, let's look at the video now. She didn't do that with Lollipop, and she encouraged them to hate. True. We're gonna watch this at 1.5 speed. But also, like, she just starts the video saying the tea's piping hot. this is exclusive information. This hasn't been published anywhere.
Tea so piping hot, none of you guys have actually heard about it before because it has not been posted anywhere. This is about a big VTuber by the name of Dokibird and a charity stream that Doki had hosted over a year ago. It's actually crazy how bad this all falls apart.
Wait, is the audio good? Before we start, I'm gonna turn off my background music. Sounds low? Okay, I'll just lower it on my headset, because my headset's pretty loud.
It's like, why does it cost so much? Why couldn't you donate it? Right? How is this the artist's fault? How is this the artist's responsibility that your team screwed up? We're a totally different legal entity from the old company. The old company had no official agreements with you, and the new company is looking into this and also have no agreements with you, let alone take over things of the old company. To this day, the artist has not been compensated for their labor, nor has the bidder received a PC. And it appears there's a new builder who is doing the build for free. I made this document, so I want to make sure I'm covering this correctly. Is this real? Unfortunately, it is.
So yeah, she made the document.
The context is, Dokibird hosted an auction that ended March 3rd, 2024 for a custom-built PC designed by the artist, with the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation being the charity of choice for the Tiltify. If you guys don't know Tiltify, it is a charity platform in which auctioneers can go and sign up on the platform, host charity auctions.
If you want the cursor pack for free, my mod just linked it in chat, in YouTube chat. Can you link it in Twitch chat too?
And it will pay directly out to the charity of choice, in this case, the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. The way Tiltify works, money does not cross the hands of the person who hosted it. So with Tiltify, Doki will not touch the money. That's just...
If you name yourself redacted, you'll always be safe. True. So first in the video, Kathleen makes a point that Dokibird, you know, she said she'd be paying for the artist services. Dokibird did make a tweet saying that, and she's looking for artists and creators to participate in the charity. The items do not need to be completed before the auction starts, so don't worry about any rush. The auction will specifically go toward the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, which looks at funding research into cure and improving treatment for mental illness globally. There will also be other items in the auction, like one-on-one gaming session with me, etc.
That's how Tiltify works. The PC is valued at 3.5K, and the winner bid 6.6K on the PC. What is the Brain and Behavior Research Fund? You know what? That's actually a good question. So if you go into their website,
okay, I've already looked at that. Sorry, chat. It's not that relevant.
Artists would be paid. 1. Doki states February 20th, 2024 that artists would be paid for their services. This is a tweet that Doki put out.
I've already watched all of this, so I might skip over parts that I feel like it's too slow or something, just to save on time.
Themselves. To all artists and creators, I'll be running a charity auction and stream next week, and I'm looking for people who would like to collab and work with me to make one-of-a-kind Doki-themed items, plushies, figures, sculptures, sign artwork, prints, etc. To auction off...
Yeah, Kathleen made the doc.
For charity. I will be paying you for your service. Please send your portfolio. The items do not need to be completed before the auction starts, so don't worry about any rush.
Okay, we can skip this. Okay, so this is really just a setup to give context. Kathleen here is trying to establish context that, one, Dokibird was going to pay for the items, because that will come up later in the conversation. And 2, that Doki states she'd be paying for shipping for the product. And here she shows a VOD of Dokibird saying she'd be paying for shipping for the products, but I have a little something to add to that.
Also cites extra information. At the 8-minute mark in Doki's VOD, Doki references the manager that will be censored. We will label them manager number 1 as helping grant Doki access to Tiltify and setting up the auction. A little bit of foreshadowing. Why are they called manager 1? You will see that there's actually 3 managers that get involved in this scenario. So 17 minutes into the VOD, Doki states she would be paying for shipping the products.
I am providing the money for shipping for all of these items, so do not worry if you're wherever you live, you're like, oh my god, would they be able to ship it there? I will be providing the money for the shipping to the creators who will be shipping these products to you if you win the auction. And also, even if like some of the items are not made by me, it's not coming from me, I will be sending an exclusive postcard to each winner of the auction.
We hear out of her own mouth that she would be paying for the shipping, and then also in the...
Okay, so just to make this clear, from my understanding of this clip, Doki, and you guys tell me if you've come up to the same conclusion. From this clip, I believe Doki is saying that she will ship the item from her to the buyer, right? Because this will come up later, where there's a discussion where the artist believes that Doki should also be paying for the shipping from the artist herself to Doki, and then Doki to the buyer.
In that same VOD, she mentions having a duplicate of each item for herself to twin with the auction winners. You will see later that this will be something that will not be mentioned to the artist until a year from when this started. So
or from
Doki's
the
manager
artist directly to the buyer. But there's been that won't work in the vid. Like in the context here, the artist couldn't ship it to the buyer. What Doki is saying is that she'll ship the item to the winner, right?
also confirmed this in DMs. This gets a little bit confusing because a bunch of people are redacted. In teal is manager number 1, in pink is the artist and builder. I realized later, so I did that in the second half of the document, that those who are colorblind are not going to be able to figure out what is teal and what is pink. I'm really sorry. I'll try to make it clear for when I'm reading this out loud, but it will be more clear later on in the document. Manager number 1 says, "Hi there," and this is in DMs to the artist. "I'll be providing any updates or comments Doki might have moving forward, and we'll be using a mock-up if you choose to provide one by these seconds." So they're referring to March 2nd, 2024. Or we can use photos in your portfolio if you aren't, which is totally understandable due to the turnaround time. We don't have a super tight timeline, so keep that in mind. You can take all the time you need on this project, but we would like a general estimate to provide during the auction, and ideally, we would like to get an idea of price, as Doki is planning on paying all of the artists she has chosen.
The artist name is in the mockup. Cat Docs is the artist herself. I mean, it's not Docs. It's pretty easy to find out who it is, right? You can just look at the auction, and it's literally on the mockup, like you said.
Chosen. If we're able to potentially work something out with Height, we can explore that too. Height is a PC brand. So the artist on February 28th, the day later, responds, "Hi, Manager 1, thank you for accepting my request and getting back to me. Heart. I am glad to hear about the timeline. That gives me a lot of reassurance since custom projects always take a lot of time and work to put together. I was already in talks with Height, so I've looped in my contract and I'm waiting to hear back from him at the moment." Manager 1 says, "Of course, I'm sure we can work something out for this. I will double check and see if it's possible to potentially get some items from an upcoming project for this, and hopefully we can come up with a solid idea as this progresses." The artist says, "Which branch of Height are you in talks with, if you don't mind me asking? Since I'm in talks with a UK manager, I'm wondering if it's worth roping the different teams together for better communication. I also already have a mock-up if you're ready to see it." The manager says, "Ooh, yes, please." So the artist sends over the mock-up, as you can see here, and they write, "Usually I wouldn't start to work on a project or provide a mock-up before agreeing on payment terms and stuff, but I trust we can sort that out later. Also, this is just a first idea, so it's totally open to suggestions and comments from you guys or Doki. Just a note, my concept art also never looks like the final product. The final product is usually 10 times better." The manager 1 says, "We're in talks with the marketing executive producer of I by Power in collaboration with the design team at Height. I'll definitely be able to give you a sure answer on whether or not it would be possible to get access to the items for our upcoming project for this, which would be amazing for everyone involved later today." Also, that looks absolutely amazing. We could not have imagined a better design. And the artist in response to that says, "Ooh, interesting, the I by Power is involved. If it's their marketing executive producer, this is definitely gonna be big." And here, important to note, the manager says, "As far as payment terms go, Doki is 100% going to pay whatever you charge for the PC. Once we have an idea of the final cost, we can finalize everything then." Red flags in the project.
So they highlight that because later on they're going to make the point that she didn't pay for the project. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, as we'll see. Then she established the first red flags that were going on in the project.
The first red flag and issue is that management published the PC concept for the Tiltify auction without confirming a budget with the artist, or that work could be edited. To note, in the Tiltify auction, the design was listed as potentially being subject to change. Basically, from here on out, we will see that in the beginning of the communication between...
Okay, this is just her personal commentary, so I'll just skip. Basically, she just says, "So far, so good. There was no problem," etc.
We're starting the Tiltify. So this is a screenshot straight out of Tiltify for this auction where it reads, "Concept art is subject to change and winners will be notified of all necessary changes to the final product." Another point to note, the artist told the manager...
I mean, if you guys want, we can watch the full video, but it's going to take like 2 hours 30. I have no problem with it. I'm probably gonna have to watch this video like 3 times more. Yeah, I'm interested in the Google Doc and the information.
They were going to be out of office starting March 1st for another project, and on that day, management had a message asking for edits to be made and to list the item on Tiltify. So this is on March 1st, where the builder was out of office. They say, "For this concept, can we remove the part about the LCD screen and the touch removed from the chassis name, since the touch is actually out of stock at this point and there's no ETA on the touch case getting back in stock? I can edit that myself, and I can let them know in the description that case is subject to change between..."
So basically, at this point, the artist was aware that they needed the the deadline for March 1st, because the Tiltify auction was going to go out. 4 times speed? That doesn't exist. She already speaks pretty fast. She speaks faster than me. I speak pretty slowly. But the artist was out of office, and still there was no quote given. So the manager had to resort to, putting on his own quote. And this is where the first problem begins.
The available ones. The day after, management messages, hi, just reach out to let you know that the listings are officially published and can be seen here. They link the Tiltify. You're more than welcome to post your progress photos or completed pieces on social media along with a link to the auction house. Thank you so much for all your hard work, and we can't wait to see how much everyone loves your artwork tomorrow. If you have any changes to your listing, please let me know and I can get it changed ASAP. So this is where more issues start cropping up. The second issue is that management set the starting price of the auction, assumed to be the cost of the PC build, without asking the artist, aka the builder, how much the project would cost. They instead went to the artist's PC part picker page and grabbed a previous build and used that number as the estimated cost of this new build. Straight out of the Tiltify, it says the PC is valued at $3,500.
So basically the first problem is that the first manager took the PC parts from PC Picker. Basically this. There. This was like a previous build they did, right? Very cute. Seems like it has like similar work made on it. And the breakdown for it is this for the parts.
However, that's wrong. The estimate of 3,500 is actually incorrect as well, because even if you go off of the artist's previous build, which again makes no sense.
Wait, 4 times speed does exist? Yeah, but we won't understand anything at 4 times speed, guys. My brain won't keep up. Yeah, the charity had the link to that PC part picker. More speed? You guys want more speed?
Sense because this is a completely brand new build. The artist is based in the UK, and the build cost was 3,500 Great British pounds, not 3,500 USD. So the price estimate is extremely confusing.
But that's my issue with this that I don't quite understand, because okay, let me close some tabs. Isn't the total here in USD? And then this part is in United Kingdom, so pounds, right? Because this is something Catliente repeats the entire time. She says that the problem comes from the fact that they didn't convert the 3000 JBP, not in, they didn't convert it to USD. But on the PC part picker, it says USD for the most part. And then the 355 GBP is the only part that's not converted. Is that not how you pronounce it? JB. Okay, I'm just gonna say fucking pounds, man. I don't do well with J's.
Confusing because, as mentioned previously, Doki had also mentioned wanting a duplicate of each item to
So the price for the GPU and case fans are listed since both parts must be out of stock. I believe they do mention something about having to change the case later on. A Great British pounds. Okay.
Auction winner. A second PC was never mentioned to the artist, and you see in the DMs between manager 1 and the artist, no talk of a second PC. Also,
it's G. I know how to say G. That's like when you say GG, noob. I win at the end of a game. I know how to say G. GBP. Yeah, I said it properly. Wouldn't 1,900 times 2 make it $380? Wait, why times 2?
3,500 USD price tag does not clarify whether it's 3,500 for one PC or 3,500 for the cost of 2 PCs to be built. Because that is the weird thing about this whole auction that was also really confusing. A lot of it's confusing, but this is just one of them. Because are the buyers auctioning to pay money for one PC or
I'm using the wrong link. Wasn't the lolly sexual? Wait, I think you're watching the VOD from behind, Fairy. 3,500 seems like the cost for one PC. I don't see how it could be the cost for two PC. That's kind of crazy. So this is the archive link for the PC part picker that they base their price on. And the total is $3,169.71 US dollars. With 335 pounds. This was in October 2023. Tariffs. Tariffs. And this one is an archive link for 2024. So, you know, PC parts do vary a little bit, but we can see like sort of what it was about. No, the tariff thing was a joke, guys. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. It wasn't a thing then. Yeah. Just trying to figure out, you know, what could have been the price point at that point when all of this was discussed. The total in pound is shipping fee. I think the total in pound seems to be this. Maybe? The CPU cooler, the USB hub, and what the hell is this? RM1200 power supply. Whatever this is. So the 3,206 is in USD and the 335 is in pound. Not the total amount. The total amount isn't in pounds. Most of the amount is actually in USB. Oh, thank you. Wait, you're already drunk? It's like 3 p.m.
Or two PCs. And this is for like all the items, in fact, right? So is the buyer basically going to have to pay double? And then one of the items will then go to Doki and then they would get the other one? Or is Doki going to pay out of pocket for a duplicate product that would just mirror what the buyer bought? So that was also very confusing. Then finally, going to PC part picker to estimate the build cost for a PC will cause huge issues down the line, as you only get quoted for the PC parts with no addition of labor costs. And the third issue is management. In the Tiltify auction, it was listed the buyer could choose their own specs. You can see right here. It says, this piece is a custom-built Doki theme PC. Since the PC has not been built yet, you are able to have some control over the creative process and specs of the PC. The PC is valued at 3,500 USD, and the parts in the PC will fall in line with a general PC of that pricing. So an example of
3 p.m. drunk here too. Okay. Cheers, guys. Have fun. I'm glad you guys are having fun. Hey, it's probably drinking time somewhere. Am I right?
previous build of the artist with roughly the same cost was, and then they linked it. If the client, the buyer, has the ability to choose their own parts, that's going to raise the cost of the PC. Or lower it, depending on what they want, but I feel like very few people would choose to get like shittier parts in the build.
But the buyer was ready to pay for the piece upgrades. I mean, I feel like that just makes sense, right? But they specify it later on too.
This is already poorly handled.
And Kat wrote the document, so she should know that. she wrote the entire document. Even that part that is specified later.
By management. And this is an issue because no upfront budget was provided to the artist. So here we have, this is now March 4th, 2024. Manager 1 messages the artist again, because again, remember the artist was out of town, and the manager says, "Good morning. I want to send a small update. I'll message the winner today to confirm their shipping details and all that good stuff. I'm happy to be the go-between for you both, but if you and the winner are comfortable, I can get you both connected on Discord to streamline things for you guys as far as figuring out specs and stuff. Just let me know and I'll make it happen." Secondly, regarding the payment for the PC, I know that's probably up in the air at the moment, so we can stay in contact and figure that out as the project progresses or as we have a more clear idea of projected cost. I did base the market value off your previous builds, and we would like to stay around that general cost for the parts themselves. But would like to give the buyer some wiggle room as far as, you know, potentially going for a cheaper CPU, cooler option to allow more money to go towards storage and RAM if that's something they'd like. But we won't know until we speak to the buyer. The artist responds, "Hey, I've tied up my brand deal from last weekend, so let me catch up with your message." And that was like 3 days later. So the fourth issue revolves around the mysterious brand activation, also from Heights, and involving Doki being brought up by the manager. It was confusing the artist as they weren't sure whether this activation was referring to the charity auction PC or something else entirely. The artist says, "I just got off a call with the Height UK community manager who mentioned that Height are actively working with Doki on a thing. Would that be the other activation you spoke about briefly? Trying to gain some clarity so I'm not getting my wires muddled with different things going on." And the manager responds, "Hello, just got a chance to read over everything."
No, it's not 2 point speed. It's just 1.5. She speaks naturally. It's not even 1.5. It's 1.25, guys. Okay.
To your last question, yes, and I believe it will be its own separate thing. However, Height understands this PC was a one-to-one being built for the charity auction and don't mind the Y70 case being used. But at this time, they will have no involvement in our end on the production of the PC. I've already sent an email to the winner to get some clarification on their end, but I'll reach out again in case they missed it. And of course, I made it clear to the winner that you are not going to be involved with any tech support or potential issues they have with the PC. And
So far, so good. You know, there's nothing really going on. Just everything's going on. There's just a 3,500 GPT that I feel like is inflated, right? Because the PC part picker said USD for the most part.
Fixed through a third party or directly through the manufacturer. So yeah, this got a little confusing because then there was some third party sponsorship thing also involving the same company that was maybe going to sponsor the build that later ended up not sponsoring the build. So now we get into communication issues. After this, there were communication between the artist and the management about some personal issues the artist was going through, and them explaining they might be slower to respond and get work done. There's discussions of potentially having the PC done by June through August 2024, but the artist doesn't confirm that as of
There's discussion of potentially having the PC done by June/August, but the artist doesn't confirm that as of a certain deadline. No deadline was provided by management, and the Tiltify also estimates 3 months before the turnover time, potentially longer.
A certain deadline. No deadline was provided by management to complete the build, and the Tiltify also estimates 3 to 4 months being the turnover time, potentially longer. So towards the end of March 21st, the artist responds, "Hey, management one, thank you so much for your patience with my replies. I have been recovering from addiction lately, which has been a huge struggle, and I feel that my response time has definitely taken a hit. So I want to mention it briefly to provide some additional context." Here,
the artist in question has tweeted on Twitter that they were recovering from a nicotine addiction. That tweet dated from March, and it said that they had been clean for a month. So in February, when they took on the project, they already knew, like they took on the project knowing that they were still recovering from that. I don't know if this completely excuses it. It does explain why they're taking more time, but yeah.
And transparency, and also to hold myself accountable. I wasn't 100% sure whether it was relevant or not, but since it's affecting my professional conduct, I felt it was best for you to be informed moving forward. I hope you can understand. Heart. And then the artist says, "That's fantastic, thank you so much. It clears up worries surrounding my side of things," responding to, you know, the artist not being on the hook for PC issues. Let me take a read through the update from the buyer, and OMG, the opening line that's
basically hilarious. They didn't get any updates from the artist for a long time. They're explaining it as recovering from a nicotine addiction. It's like barred out. At first I was like, whoa, is this something serious? No, it's a nicotine addiction.
Yes, we're all out here apologizing for late replies. Okay, I've given it a read. Let me do some cooking on hardware for this build, and I'll get back to you with a possible list of suggestions. It might take some time while figuring out what works best for his needs. I noticed he said he's not going to be in the US from June to late August. If this PC is completed during this time, would you be happy to have the completed build shipped to your address, then handle shipping to the buyer when they're back in their country? I may need to relocate apartments during the period they're not in the US. So
wait, where's the part about the shipping? Okay. The PC is completed during... Okay, so notice that he said he's not going to be in the USA from June till late August. So, okay, so far, I feel like the approximate deadline is late June, late August of 2024. If the PC is completed during this time, would you be happy to have the completed build shipped to your address and then handle the shipping to the buyer when they're back in the country? I may need to relocate apartments during the time period. They're not in the USA, and I would prefer that. Okay, so because of that, the artist wants to ship the item to them, and then they ship it to the buyer. So there's no more, instead of having the artist ship it directly to the buyer, there needs to be like a third person involved, like a three-way point.
So I would prefer that. Then the manager responds, that's okay, I've been pretty sick as well, so I've also been away and not here much. I hope things get better for you. I know how hard it is to quit from my own experiences. If it comes down to it, we're more than happy to handle the shipment of the PC. The manager says, sounds good, there's no rush, to take your time and take care of yourself. Then April 17th, the manager bumps it, hey there, the winner of the auction has requested to establish contact with you to discuss details of the PC himself and to check with you on any updates you may have for him. I did let him know that you were working on getting those parts figured out, but he still requested to make contact. I can send over your Twitter if you're comfortable. And then over a month later, the manager bumps it again. Hi again, I want to give you a heads up. I've chosen to part ways with Dokibird, and everything regarding the auction items will be handed off to my replacement once I leave on the 31st of this month. If it's all right with you, I'd love to include your socials in the onboarding document I'm passing along. They will handle everything moving forward, including any updates necessary for Doki and any communication with the auction winner. Please let me know if that's all right. I'll include your Discord and email for my replacement. So on June 2nd,
So there's a management replacement.
the second management then reaches out to the artist through email, writing, hello, this is Ribby, which is a temporary pseudonym. I'm the replacement assistant for the previous manager number 1. I am following up on the custom PC charity item with regards to its current status. To my knowledge, in the turnover documentation I was given, the item has not been fulfilled, and the previous assistant had issues getting updates from you in a timely manner. It has been a few months since the charity auction ended, and we're trying to wrap up our commitments regarding this project.
So at this point, it's already June, and the build was supposed to be completed by July, August, and they basically haven't started.
If you're still open to finishing the commission or have been working on it and have an estimated delivery date, please give us an update within 2 to 3 business days. Otherwise, we may have to go with a plan B and either reimburse the winning bidder or find a different custom PC builder. If you can't fulfill the item, we understand. Life gets difficult. Just let us know and we'll get out of your hair. Sincerely, Ribby. The artist responded June 18th asking for more information, but confirming they still wish to fulfill the project if the option was available. So here it's all redacted, but you can see the artist says they ran into...
Oh, wait, what? June to August? When was the last communication? April. May. Okay. And then the next update is in June.
And any communication, the very soon in regards to his issues getting picked. If you're still open to finishing the have to go,
Okay, we read that.
for more information, but confirming they still wish to fulfill the project if the option was available. So here it's all redacted, but you can see the artist says they ran into untreated health complications and that they weren't able to work during the window, and they really apologize for the delays and inconvenience they may have caused. They kind of...
Okay, so 10 days later, they get another update. They get a reply from the artist. They're saying, I've had some health issues. They were working on an MSI build. And then they give an estimate window for the completion of this project, which would be a minimum of 6 weeks and roughly 12 weeks at max. That's 10 days. Second manager has to come back in 2-3 days. 10 days to respond to a business email is a really long time. I feel like business emails, I personally would answer within 24 hours. 48 hours is the max. But still, I mean, the artist apologized for dropping the ball, etc. But they say, I wish to fulfill this project, if that's still an option, and I'd be able to commence work as soon as we work out on an agreed rate and scope.
cover some details here, like some issues basically about the PC build, because the buyer of the PC build wants a PC capable of machine learning and wants to pay for additional parts, and that extra things were requested, so there were some issues with the parts, etc. And then an issue with the PC case design, because when the artist made the design, they did not know that that specific LCD panel in the touch case was, or like that case specifically was not available, so they would need to kind of like work around that. And the artist says, since I wrapped up a project with MSI, I can give you a more accurate time frame for the project's completion. I estimate it would take a minimum of 6 weeks and roughly 12 weeks at maximum, and that I understand if you would choose to go with plan B, which is like the full refund or a different PC builder at this stage, especially you did say you would like me to reply in 2 to 3 days. I can only offer my apologies for the major dropping of the ball. So TLDR, I still wish to fulfill this project if that's an option, and I'd be able to commence work as soon as we work out an agreed rate and scope. So yeah, basically the artist offered a couple options. It was like either one, they would complete the build, they apologize for being late. Option two, the buyer would be refunded. And option three, a different builder would be used. January 2025, Dokibird personally reached out to the artist in Twitter DMs and through their personal website to put the artist, the charity winner, and a member of Doki staff, which will be the third iteration of the management team, who will be in green, into a group chat together. At this point, it's been 9 months since the buyer had bid on the PC. So Doki had DM'd, the winner of the charity auction has been unhappy with the wait, and I was pulled in to fix the issue as it has grown bigger than it should be. And the artist says, hey Doki, I haven't had any messages about the charity PC since last summer, so I honestly wasn't sure what was going on. Doki says, what's your Discord? Is it okay if I add you and the charity winner and one of my staff to fix the issue? And the artist says, yes, although I need to go over a few details with your staff before jumping into a Discord group chat with your team and the auction winner. They give their Discord. Let me know if your staff's Discord name. So
yeah, this is the third manager that's taken on this project. It's changed to, this is the third time it's changed.
An eye out for them. And then Doki gave the name, and the artist says, hi Doki, we really need your personal involvement in the group chat. That message was then sent like way later, like 2 weeks later. So here is another message. This is Doki themselves messaging the artist. But Doki says, hi, I've sent a DM about this on Twitter, but I've been told by my staff that you have been MIA regarding the charity PC. I want to know what's going on and why was this happening. The winner of the charity auction has been unhappy with the wait, and I was pulled in to fix the issue as it has grown bigger than it should be. At this point, the artist was confused since they had not received a response back from the email. So they assumed the management was going with plan B, reimbursing the winner or finding another custom PC builder. The artist was reluctant to join a group chat with the charity winner, as at this point, the artists themselves still had no idea how much they're getting paid for the project or any other questions answered. They requested to speak privately with a new management and staff member first to sort out payment, budget, and other details as to not appear unprofessional in front of the client. Because mind you, at this point, a budget was still not decided yet. No official budget was ever given at this point. The original management 1, was like, oh, please keep it within this previous build, 3,500 USD, but they got the number completely wrong because remember, they pulled the number, assumed it was in USD when the number was actually in British pounds. So that estimate number was already incorrect.
This is something that she repeats throughout the video, but as I've shown before, the largest part of the estimate was not in British pound. Like the difference is maybe $111 USD.
That is, and no official budget was ever given. So this is going to get a little confusing because so many people are redacted out of this, but this is the first contact with current management. So green, or the person that's messaging, is manager number 3. Now, pink, remember, is the artist, and this teal name over here is the first manager, the manager number 1. Manager 3 says, hi artist, I am redacted, part of Dokibird staff team. I've been working with Doki since August, and before that you had contact with manager 1, most likely regarding the charity auction. I am unsure how exactly this came to be and why Doki has to pay this out of her own pocket and the item isn't donated, but this has been before my time. Regardless, this is the item. They link the Tiltify. The PC case has a fair market value of 3,500 USD at the time, a year ago. From what I understand is that the person that asked for the PC also has some additional requests that they were willing to pay for themselves. At the moment, I feel we need to find a solution to what you can deliver for that amount currently, referring to, I guess, 3,500 USD, what the auction winner is happy with, and what we can do to remedy the situation. 1-year-old specs can be an issue. I personally think we need to look at the charity item and update it and what it would currently cost you to fulfill. Then we should get in direct DM contact with the bidder of the auction and verify the specs and tell him this is what we can do for the price. If they seem to want additional specs, then we should, Doki bidder or Doki staff, talk about that and what the cost is and who should pay for it. So regarding the underlying statement of, I am unsure why Doki has to pay for this out of her own pocket and the item isn't donated. So there was an option for artists that Doki was working with for the auction to donate their work and have that donated work be auctioned off for charity. But again, like I showed you in the beginning of stream in the VOD, Doki had previously stated she would cover the pieces and pay for it if the artists don't want to donate. And there was never—
This is why she made that entire point and showing the tweet in the beginning of the video saying that, you know, Dokibird said she would pay the artist. I think later on, this is quickly resolved and they're like, yeah, we'll pay you.
An expectation artist would donate. Because remember, I will be paying you for your service. So manager 3 starts getting a little weird about this, like, you should have donated it thing. Which again, in my opinion, is not fair whatsoever.
My dog is barking.
You know, and I think because it's for charity, this does devolve a little bit because there starts to be some sort of guilt tripping of being like, well, for the good of charity, you should have donated it. Da, da, da. This might be a little bit of a hot take.
And then she says that she makes this point that the manager is guilt tripping the artist, saying they should have donated it. But I think there's just been some miscommunication because this changed hands so much. And they're like, well, the bid was at 3,500. So the price of the computer needs to be around that price.
Doki originally put out a tweet calling for creators and artists for a pay.
Then the artist replies saying, no, it was from the start. It was clear that I was getting paid for it. This is the tweet I responded to. And I'm happy to provide a breakdown of the PDF. So then they're like, oh, okay. And then the budget conversation begins. Oh my God, they want me to make an update of my computer. Not now. This is a prime example of legal contracts and NDAs exist. Well, the problem is at that point there wasn't a contract yet.
You for my service. Budget conversations begin. Because the PC build was listed as 3,500 USD in the auction, which was not run by the artist, but an assumption manager one made, as in the number, the staff member assumed the build would still cost 3,500 USD. The artist provided a PDF including the cost of parts, additional things the bidder wanted, and their hourly wage. They priced their build service at the national London living wage, undercharging below their standard rates. This is due to lack of transparency with the budget and how the artist felt pressured in being responsible to sort this PC mess out. The artist says, to make sure I have this right, the services are.
Oh, hey, Lara. Wait, aren't you streaming right now? Aren't you having a subathon? Yes, there's a confusion between the staff right now because the staff believes at this point that the entire cost of the project is around $3,500, but the artist is like, no, because that doesn't include my labor wages. Now I'm done for today? Oh, I see.
Are being paid for like Doki originally said. And manager 3 says, yes, they would be paid, originally listed as 3,500 USD, I think. Sorry if it's the wrong number. I'm backtracking the auction from the limited info I was provided. So the artist provides the PDF and states, since the build at auction was based off one of my previous PC builds, I used components that are equal to this cost and calculated the services in addition to that, including my work, customization materials, etc. If you agree on these details, I can go straight to the auction winner and discuss the specs they want replaced. Let me know if you have any questions and we can go over them. And manager 3 says, oh, but when I calculate the total price of the PDF, it's not around the 3.5k USD, but more around 7.2k USD, and they might even ask.
That's a lot more than 3.5k USD. That's 7.2k USD.
For upgrades, which would be more than what the auction bid for. Are you sure it's the same specs? If so, I'll run it by Doki.
The auction bid was like 7.1k?
And staff and see what would be the best choice to continue. And here is where we run into.
They don't even say no yet. They're just like, let me check with Doki to see what we can do. I'm just gonna close the door because my dog's barking.
To the next problem of this auction, guys. I think the people hosting the auction, I guess management number 1, I think it didn't occur to them. And this is where we go into the original problem of them going to the artist's PC part picker and pulling the list of parts. They didn't consider the labor cost of building the PC, which is something that needs to be paid for. So that 3,500 USD number, remember,
that is a mistake on the first manager's part, that's for sure. That manager seems to have made a lot of mistake during the auction, judging from, I think Dokibird mentioned that in the Google Doci.
Already wrong because it's not in the right currency. But secondly, that number only counts for parts. It doesn't count for the labor of building the PC, which again is labor that should be paid for, right? But that's like the equivalent of like, I don't know, going to a mechanic and then, I don't know, you give him like a part of your car.
But 11k worth of labor?
Yikes. Sorry, I suck at mechanic and car stuff, but like, you know, I accidentally broke the side mirror
Thank you, Lara.
off of my car. So that's equivalent of going to the mechanic and just handing them the mirror, being like, can you put this back on? And then they're like, oh, it's going to cost you like $200. And I'm like, why can't you do it for free? I gave you the
I see what you mean, Josh.
part for that fell off my car. And they're like, well, yeah, but I need the time and expertise to put it back on. So you need to pay, you know, that is where the issue comes in. The artist emphasized with the bidder who spent 6.6 thousand USD and hadn't received the PC and began trying to sort the problem out. The artist even started to look for alternatives.
Oh, the final bid was 6.6 thousand. Okay. I thought it was higher.
Ways to make the build more affordable by contacting their personal
So Doki added the 1,000 on top of that.
and connections. Again, this is like extra stuff the artist is doing on top of it. Like flexing your personal relationships to try to like pull strings and get things done is not an expectation that would happen in scenarios like this. Like this is like going above and beyond. Some people might read this and be like, well, like the artist should have done that to make it as cheap as possible for Doki. It takes a lot to ask your relationships for stuff because you kind of like use up the amount of asks you get. Does that make sense? Like trying to speak.
Sure, but I don't know. It depends. Some jobs you literally only get hired because of your network. Like for my IRL job, I wouldn't get hired if I didn't have a network. My services come with my network and with the connections that I've established. So I think this is really dependent on the industry you're in.
Or charity of auction that kind of is falling apart, essentially. Because yeah, some people might be like, oh, why
And
couldn't
it's for an auction. It's with a VTuber she wanted to work with. So, I mean, I've done it several times.
just do this from the start? Like, you only get asked so many times. So now, January 17th, 2025, the artist says, the original hardware cost of my Cinna PC has always been 3,500 British pounds, but I believe it's been mistakenly put down as 3,500 USD in the
Like, even the artist is repeating that, but it wasn't 3,500 British pounds. It just wasn't. Which is why the price is misaligned. The specs are... Okay, I'll just let her read it.
The specs are accurate and as close as they can be. There's the exception that the chassis in the Doki PC design isn't the same as the one used for the Cinna PC, but we didn't confirm a price breakdown specifically for the Doki PC in advance before the auction went ahead. There is an option to lower the specs to save on component cost, although it might be difficult because it wouldn't align with the specs advertised to the auction winner.
And I feel like when they saw the auction go up, shouldn't they have said something too? Like, hey, the price is way too low, or this doesn't include my wages. This is being brought up in like January 17 of 2025, months after.
By the way, I want to remind you, the PC was auctioned as you could pick your own specs. The artist continues, the winner has said that they're happy to pay for upgrades, so that wouldn't be an issue and I would handle that with them. So try not to worry that much about that side of it. You shouldn't be having to also pay for components to be upgraded. Besides, the Cinna PC is already Gen 5, so there's not been a huge amount in terms of upgrades yet anyways, aside from the 50 series GPU.
Yeah, the artist interacted with the auction listing, so they saw it for sure. But still, I mean, the communications are like pleasant till then. Like, everybody's polite, you know, everybody's trying their best to make it work so far. But I do feel like the prices are getting inflated,
which haven't even released yet. Would you like me to
which is my issue with this,
and speak with them about the specs they do want first, so that we have a fuller picture? Because if so, drop me their username and let them know to expect a request from me. And then the artist says, hey manager, I hope I'm not spamming you with messages.
Thank you for offering us up to Dokibird Nimbus. Thank you.
But I've got an update that might also help us with this somewhat. I heard back from a contact this morning and may be able to get support on the PC chassis, which would help reduce the cost. One of the major things about the PC case was that they were only available in the US, so ordering it to the UK was going to incur a hefty chunk in taxes and international shipping. Plus, it's one of the more expensive cases on the market in the first place. The case alone was going to be 843 USD in my original calculation. If I manage to get support with it because the case has become available to UK distributors, then that could offset the cost entirely. Manager's like, why does it cost so much? Why couldn't you donate it?
But okay, so this is the first breakdown and it's at 7.2k USD, right? Or is that only for the parts? Does this include the wages? Because how do we end up from 7.2k USD total to 14k later on? The case is $450, not $800. Hey, thank you, April.
So the artist got
this includes the wages. So how come the price keeps going higher and higher? That's what I'm wondering.
Information that they were going to get support with the case to help alleviate the pressure of the cost. The manager says, oh, so this is about the costs, right? About labor costs. So just to be sure, that would be 3,400 USD for labor costs, which, you know, when you calculated for the UK national living wage. And the artist says you might want to round up to the value the hardware was listed, 3,500, if the buyer wants to replace parts. The $82 can go towards the hardware they choose. So my recommendation...
When I did a custom PC quote, I think they only had like a $250 to $500 assembly fee. And they made also like really modded PCs. Maybe this is because the artist is famous or they have a big TikTok. I'm not sure.
Would be 3,500 USD plus 2,398 pounds. That way they're getting the full value as advertised. If that makes sense, it's up to the team though. The manager says, I will get you in direct contact with Doki and the charity auction bidder to sort these out. Would the pricing be final, so no more additional costs, correct? Like no more shipping and tax costs. And the artist says, okay, can you please do that to sort this out ASAP? It was agreed with manager 1 that your team would handle the shipment of the unit. Hence, any packaging shipping tax isn't included in the estimate I gave you. And it should be...
Oh, it was agreed with management 1. I like this. I wish that was included in the evidence because they included a lot of screenshots. They're not including that one. Then they're going to just refer to the VOD from Dokibird. I feel like there's also some miscommunication there. You know, was Dokibird planning to cover the fee? You know, a one-way shipping fee to the buyer? Or... I don't think she was planning to cover the fee for the artist to ship it to her and then ship it to the buyer. Mm.
Be written in the PDF I sent. So manager 3 says, so it doesn't make any financial sense at that point. Basically, the item, work, shipping, tax together costs more than the offer the bidder put on the item. I will ask Doki what she wishes to do, since this is very badly arranged by ourselves before my time.
Here they admit that it was badly arranged by ourselves. This is our fault, the management team. But the manager is saying, I think I'm going to advise a refund to the bidder, which I wish they went with that option because it would have saved so much trouble.
But a refund to the bidder is what I'm primarily going to advertise because this makes very little sense to me. And to be fair, this is fair, right? It's fair to be frustrated that, oh, I hosted a charity to auction off the item and then the item is going to cost more than what the auction is. But this is a whole issue with how the charity was set up in the first place. It should have never happened like this. There should have never been a scenario where in the charity, the item costs more than what the bid for the item was. And whatever management 1 was doing was setting up the auction because they never confirmed the price of the PC. They started the bid for the PC at $3,500, remember, US dollars, and that was not including labor cost. That was only the cost of PC parts. And they picked a random PC build and based it off that using the wrong currency. So the artist says, may I add my assistant to the group chat also? Their name is redacted. The manager 3 says, sure, we can discuss the options and choices, etc., as Doki should be able to make a decision on what the best solution should be. And the artist says, okay, I've added them. Do you mind if I ask what Doki's schedule looks like? We're all in different
Okay, it's kind of irrelevant. I'm just gonna skip this. All right. This is where, then they get put in a GC together, and the buyer, the artist, a manager, and then Doki eventually start talking together.
Verifying their timeline. Censored is what likely could be manager number 1. So the buyer, January 19th, 2025, says, hello, I'll post my timeline here. Contact initiated soon after the auction by redacted, which is most likely manager 1, the manager that screwed up the auction. 2, I said I wanted to increase the budget of the build's hardware and I would be willing to pay the additional price. 3, there was no communication for a while. After some prodding, I was notified the artist had medical conditions and they were gone, and the team was looking for somebody to fill in as a new artist. Manager 1 also offered to send the postcard early, which I did not take the offer. So basically, Doki was offering free, I believe, signed postcards in all of the winners' packages. Manager 1 disappeared and subsequently was replaced by Ribby. Remember Ribby's manager 2, using the same email after several months. The replacement was not notified nor communicated to me about the auction until I sent follow-ups. 5, Ribby apologized and said, quote, the budget was allocated, end quote. 6, no real additional.
Thank you for the sub, Kirika. Thank you. Artist listed 120 hours pre-production work. I haven't gotten to that part in the video yet, but it seems that 280 hours is a lot. But it seems that from the Dokibird Google document that we read, it's implied that the artist was charging them for communications too.
Information of relevance was exchanged after that point, and Ribby went Mia as well. In the VTuber space, it's known there's a lot of crappy managers. I've covered many of them on my YouTube channel, okay? But the thing is, your managers are an extension of you. So is it your manager's fault they absolutely dropped the ball on the auction? Yes. But again, you as the VTuber should have kind of looked over everything before you hit the go live button with the auction. Maybe you naively put your full heart's trust in this management and trusting they would handle everything correctly. Between the changes of hands, so much was lost. Essentially, if you're a VTuber with management, right, you kind of act like the boss of your own little company. And if somebody gets fired, like manager 1, and then manager 2 gets brought on, in corporate, there is a middle person that serves as the handoff between person number 1 and person number 2 that gets hired to fulfill the role. So it looks to me that in whatever is happening with the Dokibird company situation.
I mean, I don't know about the handoff part, but I agree that the manager is an extension of yourself. And we've seen that with the whole Cinder situation and the other, the Shondo thing, the Shondo tweets where Legal Mindset explained that you're naming a manager as a representative of yourself is kind of a legally binding thing, which you give them the responsibility to act on your behalf.
What manager 2 needs to do, like to fill this in, etc. And again, I would say that as the VTuber,
vicarious
the head of
liability is the word he used. True. You have a good memory.
And you should have line of sight into what's happening in your company, in the management that's going on. These aren't screwing up down below, Again, if the managers are doing little things.
Dokibird try to make it right, at least. From what she said in the Google Doc.
Social media manager, a senior social producer that looks at the post before it goes live and okays the post to go live. So regardless of whether the person below you screwed up or not, sucks, right? But you as the person above them, as the big bodily bad,
can we go back to the screenshots?
That is the big issue here. So who's going to fix this? At this point, the buyer has now been waiting for 10 months. The artist then apologizes for the
10
wait
months.
and summarizes their health concerns. They then ask...
Nothing has been started yet. The artist then apologizes for the buyer's wait and summarizes their health concerns. Okay. Then they ask about questions they've had about the project.
About questions they've had about the project. So this is on January 19th, 2025. The artist says, to clarify, I sent over a PDF with details about the project to Doki and team, but to move forward with the project, I need estimated project cost to be confirmed by Doki, to chat about the hardware the buyer would like upgraded, to confirm and discuss shipping details. I can send the hardware list I put together if needed. The components I pre-selected are black, but buyer, what is your preference when it comes to component colorways? This appears to be the first mention of there being a request for 2 PCs, not one, to the artist. The artist never had an agreement with Doki or their management for even 1 PC, the first one they thought, the only one they thought they were building, let alone this second PC that was floating around as an idea. So buyer, saying, good to hear that your health is back on track. And the buyer says, my understanding in the beginning was it was supposed to be Doki would get one of each item herself. But I believe not long after she got a PC, and this probably fell off her radar of things she needed. So I'm not sure if there's a requirement to pair up builds to reduce the workload. So Doki then joins in, apologizing and moving the convo forward. So Doki says, hi, sorry for the late reply to all of this. I'll be reading through the replies. I'll be handling it personally instead of my staff since they're all busy, and it was my fault the PC stuff got delayed, since I didn't realize the miscommunication got this bad until I was dragged back in and notified about it a few weeks ago. I really apologize again for the delays on this auction item. If there's something you need from me and I don't reply back in time within 48 hours, just ping me again, because my messages get super swamped every day. Since I don't think I'll be needing another PC, we can allocate the funds to getting the buyer's PC made with the parts they want. Unless you'd like us to have similar PCs to share, I also don't mind as a special feature. Please feel free to let me know.
So she's like, no, we don't need the second PC. So I'm not too sure why the second PC thing is being brought up repeatedly in the video. To me, it's kind of like muddying the topic. I think the point Kathleen is trying to make is that there was a lot of things that were confusing for the artist and that the artist wasn't let known of. Was she a VTuber in the past? No, she's not. She seems to be talking like she's some sort of authority. She's an artist.
This is also weird and confusing. Again, Doki had mentioned on stream that she wanted a duplicate of every item so that she could match with the buyer. That's a cute idea. And that wasn't made clear from the Tiltify. The starting bid for the Tiltify was set at $3,500.
Yes.
It was listed as for 1 PC. $3,500 for 1 PC. Here is a PC part picker of what the artist had made.
Yeah, but Doki had planned to pay for the second PC, which is shown in screenshots just after this. So I don't know why Caitlyn is taking the time to make this point here.
Of a previous build the artist made, so you can get an idea of what you're going to get. Pulling a PC part picker of a previous build without consulting the artist first, not a good idea. The buyer states there's no need for matching PCs. Then list the desired specs. The artist expressed not
I mean, I agree, or communicate with the team saying that you can't handle the commission anymore because you're in the hospital or something.
being comfortable doing enterprise level builds, and the buyer understands, going back and forth on parts and how the build would look like. A chicken versus egg situation happens where management 3 asks for the part list to determine a quote, whereas the buyer and the artist want to know what the budget is before choosing parts. Below is a screen grab of a convo between management 1 and the artist.
So this I agree. It looks like it's funny because both parties are waiting for the other party to get a quote, and the project can't advance without the freaking quote. So like Doki's team is waiting for a quote, and then the buyer and the artist are also waiting for quotes for a budget for Doki's team, from Doki's team.
Payment that happened early 2024 when this project began. So this is what management 1 said. Secondly, regarding the payment for the PC, I know that's probably up in the air at the moment, so we can stay in contact and figure that out as the project progresses or as we have a more clear idea of projected cost. I did base the market value off your previous builds, and we would like to stay around that general cost for the parts themselves. By the way, do you see this? We would like to stay around that general cost for the parts themselves. So manager 1 is telling the artist, we would like to stay around that cost for the parts, the cost of the previous build, the 3,500 USD. So up until this point, the artist 1 thinks there's only one PC, but 2, the artist is under the assumption, very, very fairly, because this is exactly what they were told, that the 3,500 USD, which was a wrong number because it should be in British pounds, would be for parts. So the artist up to this point is assuming labor was going to be additional. Whereas Doki and I guess other management 3 is under the assumption the 3,500 USD, the wrong number, is for everything. Parts, PC build, shipping, which Doki said they would pay for everything, was going to be in that 3,500 number. For more context, the buyer had the intention of upgrading the build to their desired specs and was willing to pay out of pocket for the difference between the allotted budget and their desired build. The buyer says, I see. I was working with the mindset of Doki providing her budget, and with that amount, I know how much I may or may not need to add to the pot. For example, if the total was 4K and I'm only willing to contribute 2K, the total would be 6K. Or if the total was then 5K for the budget, I would add 2K and the total would be 7,000, which would give an additional 1,000 for me to choose parts I want. Thus, having an idea of how much I have to work with will undoubtedly affect my choices. So the artist says,
I don't really understand why he needs how much Doki is going to put on the project, because I thought whatever Doki is going to put on the project should cover the labor costs, no? But he's looking to upgrade the items. This is the part I don't really get. And then the artist is like, I like to emphasize this point. I've been working the same mindset. We're both waiting on a budget estimate from Doki, as we can't move forward without at least a ballpark. The artist then expresses needing to hear from Doki to continue moving the project forward. Then the artist says, at this point, I'm finding it hard to continue dedicating time to the project without Doki's personal involvement. She's the only one who can make key decisions on behalf of her business, and her input is critical to moving things along. I keep sensing that this project might not make financial sense, and I'm genuinely concerned about the risk of not being compensated for the hours I've already put in. Since we don't have any form of contract yet, I haven't been able to establish standard creative industry practice, such as a kill fee. What's a kill fee? So far, I've already put a significant time with the concept art, drafting up proposals, communications, but without a clear budget. I've been shooting in the dark and undercharging my service in the process in an attempt to make this work without undefined parameters. Oh, a cancellation. You want a cancellation fee, but there's nothing's been done except quotes and timesheets. So there's a concept art that's been made. I get that deserves to be paid for. That's fair. Drafting up proposals. Proposal, that's not standard practice to pay for that. Communication. I've been shooting we've read that. I really hope that you can understand that I can't put in any more hours or change the cost breakdown I've already given until I actually know what the upper limit financial constraints are. What the Doki team is doing to make this work. I want to feel like we're all aligned and giving our best effort to deliver a lovely product to a client who has been waiting for a year. I mean, if you're going to charge for a quote, it needs to be communicated. Like, that certainly can be done, but it needs to be communicated. You don't just come out with a surprise invoice after. With that in mind, to keep the chat on topic, I will refrain doing what I said earlier so messages don't get pushed up, narrowing down the list of parts. So the buyer is just saying, I'm just going to wait till other people reply to the artist's inquiry. Then Dokibird chimes in, hello everyone, sorry again for the late reply. For the budget, it will be 6 to 7K. I'm willing to squeeze an extra 3,400 USD if the parts do go over due to the long wait, so the maximum I'm willing to go will be 7.4K, depending on if the parts does go over budget a little bit. Then the buyer responds, thank you for getting back to us. However, I believe there are still many points that need to be agreed upon before we continue any further, specifically between Doki and Doki's staff and the artist. If the price raw parts of the build were originally slated to be around 3.5K, how much was originally additionally to be set aside for the artist's work? Does the new budget of upward 7.4K include the cost of labor or not? I mean, my assumption is that it does, no? If so, what percent of it is it supposed to be? Well, they need to know her wages. Given how things have gone so far, is whatever previous estimate made for the artist's work still the same? And how does the new proposed base budget by Doki plays with new estimates? Finally, it would be best if discussions on topics such as shipping, compensation, and some concrete estimates be made between Doki and Manager 3 and the artist. I agree that the buyer should be left out of these discussions. That's just awkward. The labor cost was discussed at this point because the artist sent them a quote of 7.2K. No? There was a 7.2K quote that was discussed previously that included labor cost, from my understanding, unless I misunderstood that. So probably using 3.5K, 4K as base parts as an estimate. Sure, that's a pretty decent estimate. Before work progresses any further, she mentioned wanting to adhere to industry practice, which I believe is a good idea. Without any formality, it makes it too easy for discussion/work to proceed before getting cancelled and wasting even more of everyone's time. There are obviously additional administration issues that I have not brought up and are out of my wheelhouse. As Doki previously stated, she will be handling this personally. She should raise such issues. I believe I should not be bringing this up. Management 3 brings up the total auction amount of the PC being $6,600.
Additionally, to be set aside for the
and
artist's
advises
work,
a refund.
their labor. Does the new budget up on as base part? This is $6,000, and Doki is already willing to up that amount. If it goes much further above that upped amount, then honestly, I suggest a refund at that point, because from a management perspective, this already doesn't make much sense to me. But she feels very bad about the long wait and how things have been handled in the past by previous management. The buyer pushes back on this notion and suggests a build estimate. The buyer says, the auction was for charity. That number should not be considered the actual amount for the build. It could have been raised to $20K if we had additional dedicated bidders. Additionally, as it is charity, it is against the spirit to use that as the budget cost. I believe there should be an actual fixed price for this build that should have existed regardless of the charity auction bid. This is why I asked the question regarding the original and current budget. So the original build estimate was $3,500 for parts.
I'm trying to understand this part. The auction was for charity. That number should not be considered the actual amount for the build. So the 6.6K. So the 6.6K goes for charity, right? So Dokibird is paying out 7.2K out of her pocket. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, so we're on the same page here. Could have been raised to 20K if we had additional dedicated bidders. Additionally, as it is charity, it is against the spirit to use that as a budget cost. I believe there should be an actual fixed price for this build that should have existed regardless of the charity auction bid. This is why I asked the question regarding the original and current budget. Original build estimate 3.5K parts plus labor estimated at auction time plus administrative fee equals X. 3.5K plus labor estimated at auction time plus post-auction labor plus administrative fee plus hassle fees plus Doki's new contribution equal Y. The question is then who is paying for and how much is artist labor estimated at auction time? If this value is and was always approximately 3.5K, then Doki's new contribution might as well be 0, and I would be responsible for any additional fees incurred. This is why I wanted clarification to all and more of the questions above. It is possible that this 7K figure, which Doki has to contribute, the real cost of the build has not changed, therefore leading to a convenient misconception that there were additional funds diverted to this now that Doki is not obtaining a PC from artist. Josh, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Lumbago gets
It's plus the artist labor estimated at
$8,000.
I wanted clarification. Real cost now that the USD quote is based only off PC parts.
In the previous estimate the artist provided to management, they undercharged their labor at minimum wage because they felt pressured to accommodate the unspoken budget of $3,000. Again, that $3,000 quote is based off PC parts and never accounted for labor costs. The buyer advocates for the artist to be paid fairly for labor.
The market value of your previous builds, and we would like to stay around that general cost for the parts themselves. End quote, referring to 3,500 USD. The buyer advocates for the artist to be paid fairly for labor. So this is just me with a little tinfoil hat, okay? But to me, it smells like Manager 3 kind of wanted to like try to beat down the artist and buyer enough times so that they could get the artist to like say they were gonna do the build for free, to like give in essentially, or to do the build for not charging for labor so they could only have to pay 3,500 for parts USD and then he could get away with it. That's what it kind of feels to me like what Manager 3.
What? I didn't get that from this.
Is trying to do. You'll see later because the language gets a little manipulative in my opinion.
I think it's because Doki said, I'm willing to dish in an additional 3.4K to make this happen. Then the buyer is like, no, you don't understand because the initial 3.5K should not be included in the total price because all of that is for charity. So basically, the buyer is saying, you can't include the 3.4K in the total price. We want to know what's the actual budget for the entire PC. But I don't understand the Catliente commentary. I didn't read that from the manager. I don't feel like he was really trying to guilt trip them.
But that's my little tinfoil hat theory. Okay, I'm not claiming that's what that actually is, but it's happening. My little conspiracy theory. Twirling my mustache over here. So the artist says, my rate at the time of auction would have been £32 per hour. I've lightly tweaked the cost breakdowns these past weeks to match with market fluctuations for components, but being fully honest and open here, I am...
The buyers also misunderstand that the Tiltify doesn't go to Doki, if that would be the take. I don't know, maybe, I don't really understand the point buyer is making. That was maybe that was my theory, but I'm really uncertain about this. So take this with a huge grain of salt. Yeah, there's definitely major lack of communication. Who dropped the DMs? We don't know. I feel like the only person that has a motive to drop the DMs is probably the artist involved, right? But the buyer is making the mess worse. He is. I think it's a bad idea to discuss this with the buyer in the group chat in the first place.
Undercharging my fees at 13 points.
Yeah, no guilt tripping was had. The third manager was just trying to understand what the info they had gotten from the convo.
£85 per hour, which is the UK London living wage. I thought that by undercharging, it could alleviate the financial pressure that seemed to be getting in the way with the budget, and I wanted to make sure the project got honored because it's for charity. The minimum base rate I should be charging is £32 per hour. And then the artist responds to Doki getting a PC. The artist is like, wait, Doki was obtaining a PC from me? I'm out of the loop because I'm confused about an extra PC that keeps being mentioned. From my understanding of going through this, the only time Doki had mentioned getting like a second PC or like a duplicate was on stream. It wasn't.
But Doki already said she doesn't need the second PC. I don't understand why we keep going to this point.
Mentioned in the tweets that Doki put out that the artist applied to be one of the people chosen to make stuff for the charity. And it was never mentioned in DMs to the artist. The artist had no idea. So again, how the hell did the artist find out over 10 months later that there was supposed to be a second PC? Management 3 explains how the charity auction was set up with a formula that makes absolutely no sense for how these functions typically go. It will be shown later as well, but typically for charity auctions, all items auctioned off are donated by generous donors. People bid on the item, and the total sum of what is bid on is donated to charity. For example, 5 people donate PCs. The host will then auction the PCs, they'll raise, I don't know, 100K, and thus all 100K minus processing fees will go to the charity. The host doesn't pay for PCs.
Manager 3 explains how the charity auction was set up with a formula that honestly makes absolutely no sense for how these functions typically go. It will be shown later as well, but typically for charity auctions, all items auctioned off are donated by generous donors. People bid on the items, and the total sum of what was bid is donated to the charity. For example, 5 people donate PCs, the host will auction off the PCs and raise $100,000, and thus all 100K minus processing fees and stuff will go to charity. The host does not pay for the PCs because it was explicitly noted that 5 PCs were a donation with the sole purpose of raising money for said charity. This is a fault for the first management team that set the auction up. I mean, I kind of agree with that. Like, the first manager that set the auction up lowballed all of the items, it seems. And so Doki has to pay from pocket now. The artist should not have been compensated. That's more of how linking up with a charity works. Part of comms would be covered, but if you sign up for charity work, the understanding is that you're donating your time to charity. But the artist signed up through that Dokibird tweet saying she would pay if they didn't want to donate it. So Doki donated her own PC part. Her own PC. Like the copy. No, because no, that's not true, because she also said she would fund it out of pocket, so
because
But anyway, the takeaway is that the artists did get told they were paid. So, yeah.
explicitly noted they were a donation with the sole purpose of raising the money for charity. This is
No,
a
the minimum wage in the UK is nowhere near £32. It's like, I think it was stated that's around like £16 an hour, but the artist is saying I should be getting paid minimum £32. Doki said they'll pay for PC and art. Yeah.
fault of the first management team that set this auction up. Most of the cases with charity auctions, again, people donate the item. Any amount donated, even if $1, that is profit. Not profit in your pocket, but profit for the charity to go to the charity as a donation. The issue comes up is if you're buying
it's
an item.
12 pounds, 12.60 pounds. Thank you, Rini.
Donate, and the item wasn't paid for yet. Okay, that is why this screwed up so badly, because they're donating a custom commission item from an artist that was not completed yet, or they never figured out how much it was supposed to cost. So when they set the original number, so it kind of makes sense to be like, well, whatever the product is, we're gonna buy it, we're gonna set the base cost. So the base cost will be the cost of the product, and then anything extra will go to
I feel like this is a conversation that should have been had, or at least brought forward by the artist way earlier in the process.
Charity. But you fail to consider hidden fees, operating costs, whatever, and especially when it comes to custom built PCs.
$42 USD an hour. 32 pounds is closer to $42 USD.
A product that is really expensive to build. It's fair for it to cost the way it does, right? You pay for labor, the expertise, right? Any little screw up, the PC doesn't work, high risk, high reward. Those things are always going to cost more. But I think nobody in this process.
Okay, but even if they're friends of the stream, you don't need to. Don't talk about other content creators unless I bring them up, please.
Including Doki, realized how expensive a custom PC is. The price was astronomically way too low. It should have been minimum bid 7.5K, like straight up minimum bid. And I feel like anybody with like custom PC experience, which I don't even have any really, would look at the 3.5K number and be like, how am I getting this for this much? Because that's not adding up. It's way too low. But again, not the buyer's responsibility. So manager 3 says, hey buyer, I understand what you're saying, but you seem to be missing a few parts. Regularly in charity auctions, there is an existing item or service donated and people bid on this, raising the maximum amount for a good cause. Previous management and Doki set this auction up totally differently. Basically, Dokibird is paying for a lot of these items fully herself. Might as well donate the money directly at that point, in my view. Why this was set up this way baffles me until this day, and that's why, as you can sense, my need to stay within and around the offered amount, hence my remark. Which, okay, this also to me makes no sense. Quote, basically Dokibird is paying for a lot of these items fully herself, end quote. One, that should never happen in a charity setup, but two, Dokibird never spent a single cent at this point on this PC, from my understanding. I read through like the entire group chat.
But she's talking about the other items that were already finished and commissioned because it didn't take 9 months for it to get started.
Messages between all of these people. A cent never left Doki's pocket at this point, for this PC specifically. Maybe for other stuff, not about the PC. I understand the artist POV. And
I don't understand why people bring up minimum wage, because it was brought up in the document. That was a point they made.
Know how the original quote came to be without it being fully completed and transparent before the then Doki team communicated it during the auction. Hence, we got an odd situation that we need clarity on. We need a fixed pricing and what it would cost fully so we can decide further if everything fits correctly. I thought the money from the buyer went to charity and Doki is funding the PC as a prize. The auction money did go to the charity. That's how Tiltify works. So the way Tiltify works, you donate straight to Tiltify, it goes out of Tiltify into the charity. Doki doesn't touch the money from my understanding. Tiltify takes a 5% processing fee. That's it. Okay, so Doki is gonna pay for the PC. Or that was the intention. It makes more sense.
Is that what Doki was referring to in the document, that she was like pocketing the money from charity?
Just think operationally speaking.
Yeah, I think it's insane to have the group chat where everyone is confused about the product with the buyer in it. It's like, wow.
For a charity,
it doesn't look
messy.
too good.
Like it's very messy, because then you end up with stuff like this. So it's a price match thing. Like the money goes to the charity and Doki pays for the item. That means you have to price match an entire auction, which is wild. Well, she'll only have to pay for the products and everything else goes to the charity. That makes more sense as to why Doki was like, I want a matching PC, because she was just gonna probably pay for it herself. That's probably why, out of her own pocket. So the buyer wasn't gonna pay for it. Okay, so that clears that up. I literally read.
Now she understands that part. 51 minutes in. Someone who does run a business, the fact that this is out in the open grates my nerves so much. So I need another glass of raspberry rum. Yeah, you have that glass of raspberry rum, bro.
I through this like 4 times and this is so confusing. We're gonna operate.
Yeah,
on
she
the
gave up on that
PC
out
of pocket for the PC and price matching essentially the auction.
This second PC was brought up multiple times. It only took 1 hour.
Says, buyer, I understand what
she's the one that wrote the docs. I don't understand why she's confused about that. Because she saw the screenshot before, unless she didn't read it and she just put it in, but I doubt so.
Saying, but you seem to be missing a few parts. Regularly in charity auctions, there is an existing item or service donated, and people bid on this, raising the maximum amount for a good cause. Previous management and Doki said
Somebody's saying Doki donated a PC thinking it was 3.5k? Really? Alright. We'll have to confirm that later.
Auction up totally differently. Basically, Dokibird is paying for a lot of these items fully herself. Might as well donate the money directly at that point in my view. Why this was set up this way baffles me until this day. That's why, as you can sense, mine need to stay within or around the offered amount, hence my remark. I understand the artist POV, and I don't know how the original quote came to be without it being fully transparent before the then Doki team communicated it during the auction. Hence, we got an odd situation that we need clarity on. We need a fixed pricing, what it would cost fully so we can decide.
Understand the artist POV, and I don't know how the original quote came to be without it being fully completed and transparent before the Doki team communicated it during the auction. Hence, we got an odd situation that we need clarity on. Fuck. What did I do?
Further, if everything fits correctly. Dokibird is willing to pay an additional amount as shown above since it's for charity, and you've been waiting for a year on your item, and we feel really horrid about that. However, until this day, we still don't know what the PC would cost exactly with all the factors and additional requests regarding specs. To keep it simple in layman terms, currently we don't know if the artist's custom PC would cost 5k or 10k to make, and I will need to know this first so we can decide what to do. The artist and the artist assistant, can you provide a fixed price rating with what you would normally charge and include those elements? We don't want you to go underprice yourself, and I'm sorry on my end if it came across as that. All I want to know is the full and completed pricing so we can make a decision instead of talking about it in different ways. Personally, while I do understand this could be Management 3's way of making all aspects of the auction transparent, it feels a bit guilt-trippy. Regardless of charity or not, the artist was contacted for their services under the guise it would be paid for. The artist then provides a spreadsheet with updated pricing. Here is a spreadsheet.
I don't see the guilt-trippy part. They said that we don't want you to value your work. Like, sorry if you feel that way. We apologize if it came that way, etc.
And two options were provided, option 1, option 2, where in option 1, they priced themselves at their fair rate of £32 per hour at the time of auction, and option 2, they priced themselves at London's minimum wage.
So option 1, in USD, the total amount is $11,000, including the PC part. And option 2 is $8,800. And somehow, we're still gonna end up at $14,000. How?
Or whatever the UK London living wage is. So you can see the total estimated cost in USD for option 1 is $11,000. For option 2 is $8,800 with a really, really low labor pricing. So Dokibird responds to...
Yeah, I also don't understand why there's two options being sent.
Later clearing up their side, writing, I just finished reading through everything. I didn't give input on what Manager 3 has mentioned earlier, and it was his own opinion in case anyone was wondering that it was my idea. But it was his own, and he wanted to fix things as soon as possible since I wasn't online or was busy to reply in time. I was originally going to get a copy of each auction item, so each person was going to make 2, which should have been communicated to you from my previous manager.
That's ridiculous. You won't be building a PC for 40 hours a week for 7 weeks. That's insane. Holy shit, putting it like that, it is insane.
So I wasn't sure why you weren't informed as other creators were. And I have received the other auction items. But since I already have a custom PC, I'd rather just use the funding to make the PC that the buyer deserves instead of making 2. Regarding the pricing, originally what I told from my previous management, the creator gave us the base price of what it should cost, and we put that as the original opening bid, and was what it should cost to commission the items and what I needed to pay. At one point, I had to also pay what the bid ended for a few times, while for the majority of others, it was the original base cost. And the huge miscommunication error is one of the reasons why they don't work for me anymore, since the auction was set up all over the place. That's why we put 3k original as the starting bid, as that was what I was informed would be the cost, as the original bid is what the item should cost, and the ending bid item should never be less than what I actually paid for, which is the case for majority of the items in the auctions as I paid for the original starting cost bid. I'm unsure how they messed up the communication, since the original person who communicated with people does not work for me anymore. Again, here Doki mentions a few points that had led to the massive miscommunication this build has now become. Firstly, the idea Doki was going to get an identical copy of each item auctioned to twin with the winners. This was never mentioned to the artist, so up until the previous time it was mentioned, for almost an entire year the artist was under the assumption they were making 1 PC, not 2. Secondly, being the quote arbitrarily pulled from a previous build the artist did and using the wrong currency, pricing the build at 3,500 USD. Not only is that number incorrect because of the currency and not including labor costs, that number only accounts for the parts of 1 PC, not 2. So the artist responds, in their Excel sheet they provided 2 options with option...
I mean... Okay, criticism of Kathleen is fine, but do not name call her, please. Not in my chat.
To pricing their hourly rates back at minimum wage. And then the artist says, hey guys, thanks for your patience while I've been tied up with self-assessment stuff. Doki, after taking some time to process, I can't accommodate my pricing to the rate in option 2, and I really apologize for offering that and any confusion or inconvenience. While I am sympathetic to the challenges you face with previous management, I feel that I've been placed in a position to undercharge.
Okay, wait. So after some time to process, I can't accommodate my pricing to the rate in option 2. Then, wait, what? Why did she send that option then? Yeah, why offer it? So after thinking it over, they're like, I can't accommodate my pricing to the rate in option 2. While I'm sympathetic to the challenge you faced with previous management, I feel that I've been placed in a position to undercharge to align with your staff's current expectation. This has put me at a disadvantage as the rate I initially proposed, option 2, doesn't reflect ethical standards for creative work. I appreciate your staff's apology for the miscommunications, as instead I can shift my focus towards providing the best of my professional services. Making sure that I'm paid a fair rate in line with creative industries is tantamount to delivering a great project, and I'm committed to collaborating with you and Bayer on this. Going forward, I'd like to ensure I can feel comfortable and confident in my professional skills. I'll be providing my standard work contract and a pro forma invoice which reflects ethical pricing and cost estimates to the best of my ability. I should also let you know that I have window of availability to complete this work. I have another booking scheduled for Q2, and my rate is due to increase in the new financial year. I estimate that the project will take around a month to complete, so ideally, if we can get everything agreed, signed, and started by EOW, I'll make sure we get the project done in a timely manner and still have wiggle room in case of any unforeseen delays. Instead of lowering my rate on the invoice, I'm discounting the additional fees, admin, extra hours, etc., that would have typically been charged for. This means that even if the additional fees increase, they will remain discounted without being detrimental to my standard rate, and you don't need to worry about the cost of my fees ticking up before we get the project officially underway. Okay. I've also cut a clause regarding revision out of the contract so that buyer can freely request revisions in line with the original scope if he so chooses. Is there an email address that I can send the documents to, and would you be able to provide me with your business address info? If you'd like to discuss any parts or have any more questions, please feel free to let me know. I really hope that we can put the initial challenges we've had so far behind us, come to an agreement to get this rolling. I mean, look, you're free to charge whatever you want for your work, but it does feel like Dokibird is getting charged like corporate price because this artist is used to working with like large corporate computer companies. However, at least in my line of work, I don't charge corporate price to individuals, or like, yeah. I mean, I have two sets of prices. Obviously, an individual, it feels a little steep to charge them corporate price. This is when you respond to the arts. While I'm sympathetic to your pricing issue, we're going with another's good luck. Well, let's see what happens. Instead, they discounted additional fees to continue to try to keep the project within the scope of the newly expressed budget of 7.4K. Doki, while on vacation, responds. They go back and forth while the artist about the pricing of the build.
Like to discuss any parts or have more questions, please feel free to let me know. I really hope we can put the initial challenges we've had so far behind us and come to an agreement to get this rolling. Instead, they discounted additional fees to try and keep the project within scope of the newly expressed budget of 7.4K. Doki, while on vacation, responds.
Well, I mean, you're free to charge corporate prices for an individual as well. Of course, you're free to charge whatever you want. I mean, I'd make it clear first. when somebody asks me if I can do a job for them, I'm like, well, I'm expensive, you know? I'd say that if I was an artist, that I know my work is expensive. She should have said, yeah, I'm expensive, but I'll make it worth your while. Something like that.
They go back and forth with the artist about the pricing of the build. Toki writes, I'm on my vacation right now, but is there a way to find a middle ground regarding this? As the initial bidding was your option number 2. Even if it was in euros, which I was okay with accommodating, but now the price increased dramatically. I've had multiple PC builders that were in
Okay, this initial bidding was your option 2. Even if it was in euros. The initial bidding was your option 2? I thought the initial bidding was like, wasn't it 3.5? And her option 2 was like 8,000? I'm just confused now.
consideration when approaching me for the custom as a charity item, so it feels a bit out of a bigger mess to deal with, as I'm paying out of my own pocket for the final build that would cost more than what I was told initially, and a lot more than what the item was won for. I've actually been trying to fix this during my first vacation in years, so I apologize if I worded things wrong, since I'm typing on my phone while out. If I misunderstand from what I read, option 2 was proposed as a way to help out charity and for a good cause in the initial plannings for the auction. I'm hoping we can negotiate something that fits both, as it was a charity item for a good cause, and this has been an item that suffered the most issues. The opening bid should have been what the original base price was, with upgrades later if the bidding goes higher, so I hope to find a middle ground. If we don't, I understand, and if you feel uncomfortable and wish to take service elsewhere and focus your other projects, then I also understand, and I would look for other builders for the buyer, since I would try my best to give them the PC they've been waiting for. This to me is really gross. I'm gonna be straight blunt. I want to be empathetic. I get it. You're a busy creator. You're on your first vacation in years, so you want to relax, which is chill and all. Again, this wouldn't be an issue if this was sorted like a way longer. You know, like if you responded faster before your vacation, then this wouldn't have been an issue over your vacation. But this to me reads very manipulative, because I'm on my vacation and it's the first one I've done in like years. That's not the buyer or the artist problem. You know, the buyer and the artist spent so long trying to get you guys to respond, trying to move this forward, and you.
I mean, she's stressed out.
You guys keep like spinning things back. And then 2, I want to break this down. Regarding this as the initial bidding was your option number 2. The initial bidding was not option number 2, meaning the artist undercuts their wages and charges minimum wage. That wasn't the initial bidding. The initial bidding was only for PC parts and never accounted for labor. So that's wrong. And then 3, even if it was in euros, which I was okay with accommodating. This to me also reads manipulative, because what do you mean? You have to be okay with accommodating this because you plus your team fucked this up. You didn't directly fuck it up, but your management one was the one that screwed up and got the currency incorrect. So because your team screwed it up, your team now has to absorb the cost of the error. It's not I did you a favor for accommodating this. No, you had to do it because your team screwed.
The total is in USD. Only this amount, the 335 pounds, if you convert it to USD, there's like $111 difference.
Screwed it up. But now the pricing increases dramatically. Yes, the price will increase dramatically if you didn't account for labor costs in the original price, which was, again, your team's error. Did Doki know about this? No. Also, it's in pounds, it's not in euros, but that's like a whole side issue. Anyways, now 5,
True.
I don't like how Doki writes. I've had multiple builders that were in consideration for the PC custom build as a charity item, so it feels like a bigger mess as I'm paying out my own pocket. Sure, you have multiple builders that were in consideration, whatever. You chose this builder, so now you gotta rock with it because you chose this builder. You know what it feels weird to be like, well, there are other people willing to do it for cheaper. That's how I read it as, and I don't like that at all, because I don't like it when people put freelancers and artists in a bidding war to see who can bid themselves down for the cheapest possible service. That to me feels very exploitative. It feels very manipulative to do that, because that's what it reads to me like, oh, other people are willing to do it cheaper, so why couldn't you? Like that's to me the.
I've had multiple PC builders that were in consideration when approaching me for the PC custom as a charity item, so it feels a little bit of a bigger mess to deal with, as I'm paying out of my own pocket for the final build that would cost more than what I was told initially. I mean, if it's out of budget, yeah, I do think that artists should be paid fairly, but at the same time, it's got to be in consideration with the initial budget. You can't bust a client budget by like 3 or 4 times.
Undertone. And then 6, all this like charity, you know. Option 2 so the artist undercutting their prices a lot, was proposed as a way to help out charity and for a good cause in the initial planning for the auction. I'm hoping we can negotiate something that fits both, as it was a charity item for a good cause. Yeah, it's for charity. It's not the artist's charity, nor did the artist agree to donate something for charity. The artist agreed in the understanding that they were going to be fairly compensated for their service, and whatever charity stuff was happening was on your end. You know, they were just going to get paid to make the PC. That's what they thought was going to happen. And trying to guilt trip the artist to undercharge their rate so much for charity is, to me, icky, because that to me reads really entitled. I know charity is great. Donating to charity is amazing. If you can't donate, please donate. Charities need your money. But trying to guilt freelancers and artists into like undercharging themselves hella.
I feel like this project should have just been dropped, man. It should have just been dropped. Neither the artist doesn't want to work on it with the budget that they can afford, and Doki's team is overspending already. Like is gonna overspend by a lot if they go through with this. They should have just refunded the buyer from the start. Doki does sound frustrated and stressed out because she's typing from her phone, which I believe is what she's referring to in the Google document, where she's like, from now on, I'm not going to communicate directly, and I'm going to leave this all to my staff because I feel like this is framed as something bad faith when she wasn't trying to be.
For a charity you wanted to do,
But
gave them the
I feel like with Dokibird's past involvement with artists and all the people that have said they've had good experiences with her, I feel like Doki's somebody that really values artists and their work, and she spends a lot on art and artists and a bunch of things.
the impression they were going to be paid fairly for. It sucks that you can't pay rent this month, but it's okay because it's for charity. By the way, don't message me on vacation. That's what it reads as. And like, look, I want to be empathetic because maybe they're frustrated, so the wording is bad and it comes off funky. But the way I read this reads to me very manipulative. It's just weird. To be blunt, I don't know how much money Doki has, but can you just suck it up and take the L and shell the money out and just be like, just let me know how much it costs. I'll pay it. We can deal with this and then we'll move on. Maybe it is too expensive and it's way too.
I feel like she's already doing that, but there's a difference between shelling out like, dude, $8,000 is already a lot. The artist ends up asking, one of the quotes that the artist sent was 14 grand.
Doki's budget, which in that case, I would say again, you reasonably should have known how much a PC build of this scale would cost, but just take the L, man. Call it a day. All of these screw ups with the charity, you know, the price being too high, the currency being wrong, the labor cost being higher than you expected, you being on vacation. How is this the fault of the buyer and the artist? That is between you and your team. You and your team need to sort this out. So the artist says, just to clarify, option number 2 was what I came up with during the last few weeks speaking to manager number 3. It was suggested at first I should just be—
Yeah, just take the L, pay 15k USD, easy. It's kind of easy to come up with a quote after you haven't discussed anything with an astronomically high quote. I feel like I would feel a little bit bad and lower it down. But that's me, I guess. I do deal differently. Not everybody has to work like I do, obviously.
Donating the PC, and then to make the PC plus work plus shipping fit into the minimum amount the auction was originally listed for, which is $3,500 USD. So I felt under pressure to try and fit within the confines of that, which is why I—
And I've done work for like, you know, charity and stuff like that, where it's like, sometimes people have told me like, look, we have less budget for this, but are you willing to do it for this price? And it's like, sure, it's for a good cause. It's a cool team. You know, I'm going to do my best. It's great to love artists, but it's still a business. You got to protect yourself and your brand. It's such a mess of a situation.
Charge so much. And then in reply to the buyer being like, the auction was for charity, the number shouldn't be considered, the artist says, I also think that the buyer made a really good point. So then Doki says, yes, but the charity auction was set up where the base price should be the amount of how much the labor and item will cost. That's the information he was not aware of, and what the previous management was supposed to tell all creators, which is what majority of the creators were made aware, but some select fews weren't, which includes this item. And the artist says this is where your previous staff made the error, which is facts. And Doki says that's why a lot of items were different pricing and wasn't just $1 to start off, as all creators were supposed to inform me of what the base price was.
Right.
And why the item started off as—
the problem is that the artist never informed them of the base price past the deadline. In the first set of exchange, the manager 1 says that the Tilfilly auction is on March 1st, and the artist was out of the office. They didn't come back to them. So the manager was just like, well, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to take the price off of the price picker. Now, did the manager fuck up doing that? Yeah, for sure he messed up. He messed up because he didn't account for the labor cost.
$3,000 for the starting bid. As I was informed, that was the base price to set the auction item as. This was the only item where the commissioner piece is higher than what the item auction ended as. So that's why I wish to find a middle ground if possible, but if not, and you feel uncomfortable, I understand. I just feel uncomfortable. The most that the charity received is less than what the item is going to be, as that was not something that should have happened, and one of the reasons why the previous management in charge was let go for mishandling it. I do have to add, does this mean Doki's a shit person? No, this is a one-off situation that was horribly handled. This is just a really bad situation that happens with Doki. Being a good person doesn't mean every single action.
And she says, I wish to find a middle ground, but if you feel uncomfortable, I understand.
You've done is good. You know, you can have fuck ups here and there, but overall you try to trend toward positive, you know what I mean? And a net's higher. But this just is a situation that she massively mishandled. Probably because you could be a good person and a good creator and really bad at managerial aspects of things, which is what's looking like what's happening.
And she's like, I just feel uncomfortable that most of the charity receive less than what the item is going to be. Basically, she's going to be shelling out like 11,000 for this computer, and the charity is only receiving what was it, the final bid? 6.2?
Get the artist to lower their prices if you read between the lines, right? Because here it's like the base price should be how much the labor and item will cost, and like the manager should have told people, but they didn't, which includes this item, which is again the previous staff's problem. Management number one fucked up. We know that. And so here Doki's explaining more about how the fuck up happened, why the fuck up happened, where, like who, what, when, where, why of how the fuck up happened. But who cares? Because whatever got us to this point does not matter, okay? What should be discussed, which is what Doki is not really discussing here, which is again just shows that their managerial skills may not be the best here. We just need to discuss how to move forward, not how this happened. We already know how this happened. And the artist says the charity receiving less than what the item is going for is going to be regrettable, and I share your feelings. If the price hadn't been valued the way that it was, we could have perhaps avoided the outcome. It makes me sad that's not the case, because it would have been for a good cause that we both really believe in. I want you to know that I'm not upping the cost for the sake of it. I have to work from a standard rate to be able to make ends meet, and I'm hopeful you can understand. If it would help, I can share the past invoice from the build this PC is based from. It's about 2 years old, and I was paid both in hardware and 7.1 thousand British pounds to make the build. The hardware itself amounted to 3.5 thousand British pounds, so the total build came out to 10.6 thousand British pounds. Of course, I do want to figure this out together, and it would mean a lot if we're able to do that in a way that values my work also. And Doki adds, I would like to find a middle ground, as I really cannot, in what I believe or in faith, to have the item be just extremely more than what the charity received. If we could find a middle ground for this, maybe donate some of the money to charity itself as well, where it's around that, but a portion of that goes to charity. This again, it just reads so out of touch to me. Like, I get that Doki is really gung-ho about charity and all that stuff. Like, that's great. Good for you. I love that for you, right? We need people very, very involved and who advocate for charity. How is this the artist's fault? How is this the artist's responsibility that your team screwed up? What do you mean? If we could find a middle ground and donate some money to charity, you know what this reads? I don't care how good your cause is, okay? This reads to me as, can you do the work for free? Because again, that's what it is. Being painted over as, it's for a good cause, it's for charity. Again, donating money to charity doesn't keep the lights on in the artist's house. Donating money to charity.
How long does it take to build a PC? This is what I need to know. Is their total month cost and rent over 10,000 pounds? Okay, I guess I need to remove the price of the PC specs, which is 3.5k. But still, that's like, what? A few hours. Well, this one's probably more than a few hours. Because it's got all the vinyl cuts and 3D shit, or printing, I don't know. The kill fee is kind of what gets me. It's like the kill fee when there was no contract signed. I'm gonna tell you right now, it does not take 280 hours to build a PC case, let alone making and printing the stickers that go on the sticker. That person was trying to scam Doki. The modded guy says 20 hours on their tweet. If I printed for maybe 40 hours of printing, like if you were generous, if you guys were generous with the printing, the 3D modeling, including perhaps the sketching and model concept, which was apparently based on a pre-built. My sister built her first piece in a few hours. And she had 0 pussy building experience.
He does not keep food on the artist's table. You can't guilt trip the artist to try to make the artist donate something to charity when this entire situation was built upon the idea the artist was going to be compensated fairly for their service of the PC build. Like, it just reads to me like you don't want to pay. Like I said, what happened, right? What happened is there's a big, hot, steaming pile of crap.
Between 40 hours and 280 hours. I think I would, at this point, I think I would ask for a breakdown of each hour they've worked on it.
Because people drop the ball. Who dropped the ball doesn't matter. Now there's a big stinking.
Hey MV, I built my PC in 6, and it was the first time I ever built a PC.
Pile of poop that somebody needs to clean up. And the responsibility to clean it is Doki, and Doki doesn't want to do it.
I mean, that's also another point to consider. Like, if I'm, for example, okay, I'm gonna take me and sponsors. If I'm the one that reaches out for a sponsor for a collab, I'm not gonna charge them the full fucking price than if the sponsor reached out to me because they were interested to working with me. You know what I mean? That also is something that you kind of gotta calculate in when you quote them. It takes at most 5 hours to build a PC and at most 5 hours for software install. From what I saw, the art was already done and just needed to be printed as stickers. The person also failed to show work progress to Doki. I would also add, I mean, the times she takes to order parts, just to be generous, and the parts for the 3D printing for like the little bunny ears or whatever. I've built many. PC takes 1-2 hours. If I had a custom cool loop, then another 1.5 hours. Custom case, if you do custom work with custom cases, build 1 day. Okay. But part ordering shouldn't count as service. I mean, does she have to look for the parts? I guess the parts were already picked out. But if you have to like look for different parts and compare the prices and choose the cheaper option, I mean, that could take time. That could take maybe 1 or 2 hours. It's okay to charge for that, I think. I don't know where the 280 hours come from. They used the part in PC part picker already. Yes, but the buyer wanted to upgrade some parts, so they might have to do another set of research. Was artists charging on time spent on PC part picker? I mean, they might. You're looking at 4 or 5 hours to assemble parts on hand and benching stress. Adding custom artwork shouldn't be nearly a month of labor. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, picking parts is not labor, it's part of the consultation. That is true that when I did ask for the quotes for my custom PC, I mean, they didn't charge me for the parts. I told them my requirements. I mean, it didn't charge me for the consultation either. Or the kill fee, because I didn't end up going with them.
I get morally it could feel weird to pay more than what the charity got. That is an inevitable situation that could happen based on how this charity was set up. Is it Doki's fault it ended up like this? Partially. She should have known because she should have.
If the parts are also customized, the hours will jump due to the details. Were the parts inside customized, or was it just the parts purchased?
Double check the charity before it went live, but overall, manager 1 screwed up. Regardless, though, now we have a bidder who is out 6.6k USD for a PC, and an artist who has been communicating for months on end trying to sort this out, and nothing has happened. And the artist is wasting all of your time. And still, no talks of payment, because...
How is it free? Artist said 8k was minimum wage. That was their minimum wage quote, yes.
It's all I hear is, how can I not pay the artist? That's what it sounds like right now. The artist then sends an updated invoice where 3,800 British pounds is discounted off the cost, making the total build price 8,622. So you can see that right here. And then the artist says, that amount of my services already rendered, that's gone to charity. And then Doki says, like I said earlier, this is almost 5,000 more than what the charity ended with, which is what made me uncomfortable, as I really believe the charity amount should be closer. I was open if it was $1,000 more, but this is what makes me uncomfortable. Okay, also, privilege take. Maybe I am also coming off privilege. If your die-hard hill you're dying on is that the charity received less money than the product, then you pay for both to fix the situation. Like, in the best case scenario, this is the way to right all the wrongs that happen. Is it your fault it happened? Mostly no. But now it's happened. We have a bunch of people being strung along this long. If this is the hill you're dying on, if the PC build is $8,600 and the buyer donated $6,600, again, wrong currencies, right? But like roughly estimating, you don't.
Is this back and forth going in front of the buyer, by the way? Okay, no insults, please. No insults, or I'm not gonna read super chats anymore. Probably research hit piece on other VTuber calling them PDF files. Yes, I know.
Donate $4,000 to charity to make up the difference that the charity didn't get, and you pay for the PC. That is the best scenario. I don't know how much you have to say, like how many times you need to write it out. It's not going to change it. Doki and Manager 3 over and over again says, oh, this is like way more than what the charity ended with. Doesn't matter. It happened. It's now happened. The charity is over. The charity received 6.6 thousand USD, and the PC build is going to cost at least 10,000 USD. Those are two facts. So now how are we going to fix it? This is not arriving to a solution. The artist assistant says, out of curiosity, how much of the 6.6 thousand USD of the buyer's money did the charity receive? Doki says, all of it. It goes directly to the charity, and I don't receive any money as it transfers directly to the organization. And the artist...
Wait, who's AA? This is artist? Okay, it's changed color. It used to be pink. Sorry if that was an odd question, just making sure I'm following correctly. Okay.
Assistant says, sorry if it was an odd question, was just trying to make sure I'm following correctly. And Doki says since it's done via Tiltify. So yeah, makes sense. Doki feels, quote, uncomfortable if the charity received less than what the item is going to be, end quote. This is confusing.
Oh, the artist assistant. Okay.
As the auction was hosted on Tiltify, a platform where donors will donate money directly to Tiltify. Tiltify holds the money for 14 days before releasing it to the chosen charity. All of the money raised has already been transferred to the select charity. Alternatively, Doki could be suggesting they're uncomfortable with the buyer having paid lower than the face value of the PC build, with them donating 6.6k USD and the build valued at around 11k USD, making it a 5k difference. Just
all of the money raised has already been transferred to the selected charity. Alternatively, could be suggested that they're... No, I don't... See, that last line... Why is Catliente planting that thought? Alternatively, Doki could be suggesting that they're uncomfortable with the buyer having paid lower than the face value of the PC build, with them donating 6.6k and the build valued at around k, making a 5k difference. Okay. I mean, unless she means by the buyer having paid lower the 6.6k, that amount's going to charity. Maybe that's what she meant. Gonna be charitable here. A custom water cooler build might take longer, but those parts would be reflected on the invoice. But the builder listed a standard cooler, which takes minutes to install. Wasn't custom in that way. Okay, that's good to note. It's hard not to be insulting. People are insulted and angry, and people have this rage bubbling up inside of them because the situation is being obviously misrepresented by this woman reading the doc and her commentary. Absolutely, I agree. But if we start throwing personal insults, that will be used against us and against Doki by her critics and her antis, to muddy the situation going further. So it's best to present an iron defense. It's gonna make it worse for her. Like I've said, this is a situation that shouldn't have been aired out. Both the artist and Doki need to learn from this, and whoever dropped the DMs needs to be blacklisted. It's very unprofessional to share these to a third party, for sure.
Donating 6.6k USD and the build valued at around 11k USD, making it a 5k difference. Just suck it up, man. I'm gonna give a personal anecdote, okay? There was one time I filmed a video about a VTuber. The video was edited by my editor. It was on my YouTube channel as unlisted. Then the VTuber had made a post writing, I feel really uncomfortable with people making videos about my situation. News YouTuber specifically, which includes me. And I saw that and I was like, oh shit, okay, not gonna post the video. I never told my editor to not post the video. I had the video unlisted. It was not scheduled. Then my editor, because I upload once a day, noticed that I did not have a video scheduled for the day. So my editor uploaded the video without me knowing. I was asleep because we're in different time zones. My editor's in Europe, I'm in the US. My editor uploaded the video. He didn't know that there was a tweet that the VTuber expressed they didn't want people to talk about it. The VTuber was upset because they were upset about the way it was titled, whatever. And then so the editor changed the title and the VTuber was even more upset. Also, for clarity, English is not my editor's first language, so it came off weird probably because it's not his.
Wait, what? Wait, I need to rewind that part. Sorry, chat.
news YouTubers specifically, which includes me. I mean, all of the money raised has already been transferred to the select charity. Alternatively, Doki could be suggesting they're uncomfortable with the buyer having paid lower than the face value of the PC build.
Is she talking about Alicia?
6.6k USD and the build value at our time. I filmed a video about a VTuber. The video was edited by my editor. It was on my YouTube channel as unlisted. Then the VTuber had made a post writing, I feel really uncomfortable with people making videos about my situation. News YouTubers specifically, which includes me. And I saw that and I was like, oh shit, okay, not gonna post the video. I never told my editor to not post the video. I had the video unlisted. It was not scheduled. Then my editor, because I upload once a day, noticed that I did not have a video scheduled for the day. So my editor uploaded the video without me knowing. I was asleep because we're in different time zones. My editor's in Europe, I'm in the US. My editor uploaded the video. He didn't know that there was a tweet that the VTuber expressed they didn't want people to talk about it. The VTuber was upset because they were upset about the way it was titled, whatever. And then so the editor changed the title. And
I think the thumbnail was also a
VTuber
thing.
was even more upset. Also, for clarity, English is not my editor's first language, so it came off weird, probably because it's not his first language. I woke up at like 4 p.m. because I wake up really late, and I saw all of this going down. All of this was happening over the course of 6 hours, and I had no idea because I was asleep. I've now talked to my editor. He will not upload videos. I will only be the one that uploads the videos. He will not post videos without me knowing. It's honest mistake, happens. You know, I saw something, I didn't communicate it to my editor. I was like, I'm not gonna post it. But regardless, it happened. The video was live now, and the VTuber was upset. So I was like, oh shoot, this is really bad. I took the video down immediately, and I sent the VTuber money as an apology for the screw up. I did not make a mistake because I was literally asleep.
I didn't know about that. She sent Alicia money for the screw up? Okay. I mean, TBH, for my second channel, I have an editor that handles everything, title, thumbnails, and sometimes we've had, you know, thumbnails that I'm like, that came out that I was like, ooh, I'm not comfortable with this. And then even one that came out during Japan, but by the time I woke up, it was too late. At the end of the day, it reflects badly on me, and it is what it is. It's kind of like, fuck. Well, I'll take the hit this time, you know? It sucks. I understand that it happens, but at the end of the day, it does reflect poorly on me and my brand. And I guess the same thing for Catliente. So I just always, you know, keep repeating, be careful. Be careful with the thumbnails. Be careful with the titles. I remember there's a video called Delete, Upload, and Rima's channel. Yeah, I know. Or sometimes it's cute though. Sometimes people are like, editor, son, you forgot to put the original source link of the video. Can you put it? And then I see it in the comments and I'm like, yo, Spirit, we need to put the link. Or I try to put the link from my phone. True. That is Doki stuff messed up. That's my bad. My stuff screw up. Whoops, honest mistake.
Sleep, but regardless, the damage was done, it happened, and the editor is an extension of me because it was on my channel. So to fix it, I paid the VTuber. I am so sorry. I made like no money off the video because it wasn't live for very long, but I gave them like what, you know, I felt would be fair for like the compensation for it, etc. And we called it a day. Even if you didn't fuck up, if it's a fuck up of your team or an extension of you, it falls on you and you have to clean up the mess. Okay. Did you poop there? No, but then now it's in your house. You got to clean it. Like,
that's why she's making this tangent. I was so confused. Okay. So she's saying it's her fault.
The face of the brand, even though I didn't do it. The damage was done as a reflection of my brand. That's just what you gotta do. Like, it is what it is. Of course, I never publicly talked about it because it's not relevant. I'm not trying to virtue signal. I just did it all behind the closed doors and called it a day. But the reason I'm bringing it up.
Okay. We don't know how much she thought was fair. And did Alicia make another post on the topic?
Is because you gotta fix your problems even if you weren't the one that caused it, if it is part of your team. So Doki says, no, I understand regarding that. The 5K is just...
Yeah, but... Yes, I understand fixing your problem, but like, dude, if I had to... Okay, I don't know how much Dokibird fucking makes in net revenue per month, but if I had to dish out $14,000 to make up for one of my mistakes, I'd have to mortgage my house. And I don't even own a house. Okay, I'd need to leave my place. I need to sell all my belongings. I'd only have like my dog and the clothes on my back. I don't know if Kat would be so easily willing to dish out 15K to fix her problem. Money doesn't fix something. Money doesn't pick up the poop. It's paying the other person because they have to pick up the poop. Do you want poop on your hands? Is Cat the woman in the video? I'll be honest, I was basing my thoughts on the DM leaks. Catliente is the woman in the video, yes.
Just after your amount was deducted. All 250,000 that was raised went directly to the org via Tiltify, and I touched none of the money. And I spent my own personal money on all the items that were sent to the winners. I just personally feel that the charity shouldn't receive significantly less than what the auction item cost, and that's why I hope we can find a middle ground. If anything, maybe we can have a portion of that money donated directly to the charity and not just deducted from the cost. And the artist says it's not just deducted from the total cost you pay. And Doki says even then, the charity still receives significantly less from the auction item and cost, and that's what made me uncomfortable with it being a 15K PC. Doki then suggests a portion of the money, likely referring to the cost of the build, be donated to the charity. This feels unfair. While the sentiment of wanting charity to receive a fair amount is notable and a suggestion at a compromise, it's not Doki's money to give. This would be implying that the artist should undercharge themselves even more just to accommodate the miscommunicated budget. Management 3.
What do you mean undercharge themselves even more? Oh, okay, because she removed the admin fees? Because I thought quote number 2 was rejected, but I think she's referring to the admin fees, which she waived off.
Begins pushing back on the quotes. Management 3 says, artist and assistant, we have received a few different quotes by now, and all quotes have big differences in pricing and keep going up. When we started, you asked for a budget. We said around 7K. And now we're getting a quote for 15K USD, excluding shipping and taxes. Could you show—
That's excluding shipping and taxes. Could you show me where you and old management agreed on the designer standard fee and what has been delivered on that?
me where you and old management agreed on the designer standard fee and what has been delivered on that. Where does this number come from? Perhaps it's me being lost, but usually quotes are provided. You agree on a quote and things get made and paid in set agreed times based on the quote, or am I missing something? Management and artists go back and forth on the quotes. The reason for the quotes changing is due to the artist feeling pressured by management, both previous and current, to lower their prices to accommodate their budget that wasn't fully communicated. Management then tries to alleviate blame from themselves and the artist assistant steps up. So Management 3 says there's been multiple things gone wrong, not only mismanagement on our end, just to be clear. This is again weird. Just own that you fucked up. Trying to like point fingers at the artist for having a medical issue which caused them to—
Why are we only shown this part of the DMs though? We're getting a summary of the back and forth, then we're getting showed the one part where it's like there has been multiple things gone wrong, not only mismanagement on our end, just to be clear. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, I appreciate you.
steps up. So Management 3 says there's been multiple things gone wrong, not only mismanagement on our end, just to be clear. This is again weird. Just own that you fucked up. Trying to like point fingers at the artist for having a medical issue which caused them to not be able to respond.
Wait, where was the medical issue mentioned?
Sorry, you have health issues. Your fault. Suck it up. Like, what? And regardless, the artist apologized, right? The assistant said—
I mean, no, I can sympathize with having health issues, but at the end of the day, if somebody's running a business, you still need to communicate through that. Or you need to delegate somebody else to do the work, or, you know, anything, really. It can't just be a blanket excuse against everything. There needs to be a little bit of accountability. You can't... It's like people that blame everything. Oh, sorry, I've been going through a tough time. I'm depressed. Okay, but I feel bad that you're depressed, but the work still needs to get done.
says, I'm sorry, this has not been sitting well with me today and I have to speak up. I feel this is a horrible pointed remark to make Manager 3 and is wildly inappropriate and unprofessional. Doki and the artist have stepped up to own and apologize multiple times for missteps on both sides, and these things have been heard, understood, and sympathized with in order to draw a line under it and to see if there is a solution to be made with the regrettable circumstances we now have. Given explanations as to why certain things have happened the way they did does not equate to making excuses for it or trying to absolve blame. I think that's simple enough to understand. I really feel like the negotiations that Doki and the artist were engaging in have been undercut now, and we've reached a point where all discussions should be left to them with very minimal interruptions. At Doki, I'm sorry if my short question about the charity money was rude and out of hand. I was curious if the auction was done as, quote, all proceeds get donated, end quote, or if it was 100% of profits, since that would have made a huge difference in how much money you'd be shortfalling for this item. I should have elaborated. Perhaps attention can return to the negotiations if either feel there are further points of clarity needed. Why does all of the outside part—
I want to say, why is the artist assistant replying like that to a client. Only your staff messing up. Wasn't my fault. I have medical issues. Artists can't handle talking to a legit hardcore business manager. Wait, where has the artist stepped up to own up and apologize? What was that part of DMs cut out? Yeah, I don't know. The problem comes from the very beginning that there was no quoted price that was ever agreed on.
Parties, the buyer, the artist, and the artist assistant have to step in and keep this on track and professional.
Yeah.
When manager 3 is
Basically, artists had health issues and Doki had residence issues.
being weird and gaslighting about all this stuff. So the artist then requests compensation for their time. They're like, good morning, everyone. This isn't a message I like to be sending, but at this point, I feel I have no choice. After all this hard work without payment, I feel my efforts and work have been consistently undervalued and am formally requesting to be paid for the work I have already completed. I don't feel comfortable proceeding with this build further until I am, at a minimum, compensated for the time and effort I've already put into this project. Please find attached below the estimated invoice for my services if you wish to proceed with the build. The estimated total required for this project will be 8,600 British pounds. The amount required prior to completing this work totals to 3,800 pounds, taking 3,800 pounds off the invoice attached. To break down these costs for you,
Wait, so now the total of the project is 8,000 British pound, 8.6 thousand British pound. How many hours are we compensating them so far? That's what I need to know. The build estimate itself a total of 3,100 British pound.
1,800 pounds, taking 3,800 pounds off the invoice attached. To break down these costs for you, the build estimate itself totals 3,100 pounds, comprised of the following, and they attached a little spreadsheet. The artist says, if you prefer to cancel the collaboration and proceed to work on this build with another PC builder, a flat fee licensing agreement will be required. The cost will come to 25% of the invoice total before any deductions at 3,000 British pounds.
Wait, what? Wait, this is the craziest part of the entire thing. But so how can the Doki team back out now? They're already tied in because they have to pay 3,000 British pounds for nothing, for virtually nothing. This is to protect my original concept and ensure I'm compensated fairly as a copyright owner. I'm sure you can understand much time and effort has been put into creating this design. I mean, I understand getting compensated for the design, though. Alternatively, if you prefer to cancel entirely, the amount payable will be 3,840 British pound for services already rendered. That's including what? And 6,600 USD refunded to. What do you mean 6,600 USD refunded to what? Refunded to the buyer? Yeah, but they're not the one refunding them. I'm confused. The bid was 6.6 thousand. Okay, so Doki would have to refund this amount to the buyer and pay 3,840 British pounds to the artist. If there's no legal contract, the payment can be enforced. I agree. Told you, grifter. I mean, even if it is in message, like it doesn't have to be a formal thing. Like a contract can literally be just like on a piece of napkin, by the way. It doesn't even have to be a formal thing. But it should have been stated at least. There's a, 25% flat fee somewhere in the DMs prior to that. Even that could count. Yeah, a contract can be a conversation. Yeah, sorry, I missed a... Also, allegedly, With no proof of progress or time lapse, as was apparently a part of the asks as well. Yeah.
This is to protect my original concept and ensure I'm compensated fairly as the copyright owner, as I'm sure you can understand much time and effort has been put into creating this design. Alternatively, if you wish to cancel—
Yeah, verbal contracts are a thing. Even verbally can be a contract. They're harder to prove in court, but verbal contracts are absolutely a thing.
entirely, the amount payable will be 3,840 British pounds for services already rendered and 6,600 USD refunded to the buyer. Again, this is not a message—
No, the artist made the concept design.
I want to send, but I truly feel like I have exhausted all other options. I do not feel like I've been listened to or communicated with in a way I expect from a major project.
This sounds like the buyer and the artist want their money back now. It makes sense why the buyer was in the DMs. I mean, I understand. No, they were brought in the DMs by management just to facilitate communications, which I think is also a mess.
Such as this. I'm happy to discuss this further and clarify any items. However, I believe I should be paid for the work I have currently completed for free. I cannot continue further until the contract is signed and returned, and the services rendered so far are paid in full. Additionally, I want to clarify something regarding the financial aspect of this auction. While I understand this was a charity project, I recently looked into tax implications of charitable donations in Canada. Typically, Canada offers tax relief on charitable donations. However, since the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation is a U.S. nonprofit, it only qualifies for deductions if the donor has U.S. income. If a significant portion of your Twitch revenue, sponsorships, or other earnings are from U.S. sources, this means you may already be recouping some or all of the donation costs through the tax relief. Canadian tax laws allows donations to U.S. charities to be deducted up to the amount of U.S. source income earned that tax year, which means the financial burden of fulfilling this project may not be as high as it seems. Given this, I hope financial constraints are not the reason for further delays in settling this matter fairly. At this stage, this is no longer—
Oh, is this what Doki referred to when she was talking about, like, I don't like the assumption that this was done as a tax cut? Depending on where you live, in Florida, where I'm at, verbal contracts don't mean anything unless there is a two other witness and a napkin contract will get you charged.
a charity discussion. It's about ensuring that work I have completed is—
But Andrew has corroborated what I said before. I guess it depends on the state. I mean, you're right, it changes from state to state.
fairly compensated, and that the auction's obligations—
Where I am, it could be. But it's harder to prove for sure.
are honored at everyone. Yeah, so the overall charity out of Doki's mouth raised 250,000 USD. A lot of deductions. Doki writes, "Hello, I have not taken any tax deductibles from this charity as the money is not mine." I would like to clarify that. And yeah, okay, so this one is a little bit of a tricky scenario because like the way Tiltify works is Doki does stuff and then other people send money through a platform for Tiltify, so the artist doesn't touch the money. You get a tax deduction from my understanding, and I'm not familiar with Canadian tax laws, but in the US, if you donate directly to charity, not
But
if
at the same time, tax deductions are— people always say that, by the way, to like justify spending, but at the end of the day, it's still money that you spent. Like, sure, the government might, like, okay, people do tax deductions because it's like, well, either I give this this money to the government or I use it on my business. But you know, even, I don't know about you guys, but here in Canada, even the money that I give to the government, part of it is saved, for example, for some benefits or from my retirement. So it's not like completely lost. And at the end of the day, it's still less spending money in your pockets.
donate through something you did. But Doki writes, all the money paid is via my own personal account towards the artist, not related at any business. I am not making any profit through this or doing it for tax reasons, which is concerning you think that. By the way, I want to add, Doki, I think, reads this as a negative, as like something like accusatory. I think Doki thinks it's like a slight on her as a person, like a personal attack. Oh, you think I'm gonna like profit from this or whatever. No. I mean, I think the artist is trying to do is just reassure you that
I'm Canadian.
You're stressed about it costing a lot, and that it just seems like the artist is trying to reassure you, hey, it's not gonna be as much as you think because there's gonna be a write-off about it. So like, you know, you do save some money. That's the way I read it as. I don't read it as like a personal attack on Doki's moral character.
Yeah, I think I can agree. I think the artist was trying to be helpful, but our Doki prides herself in being fair and a straight arrow and transparent. So I think this was a bit insulting for her.
character, but maybe I read it wrong. Doki says, please understand that my staff and I are trying to work with you, and when you disappeared for 6 months due to medical reasons, your communication with us was lost and mixed up during our swap of management. I have never done any tax deductibles via charity events, as all the donations are given directly via my fans.
But at the end of the day, I fought tax cuts for charity. It's like if I donate to charity, if I donated $2,000, then I get to deduct it. So how can Doki prove that the commission was for charity? I mean, she can pass it as a business expense.
And it never felt right with using it as tax purposes, as I've never done so ever.
I disagree. It did seem more like an attack. The phrasing made it seem like she was already doing it quietly and underhand. Let's see. I mean, it's hard to get context through a screen. And I can understand if there's some miscommunication or intent doesn't jump through. If a significant portion of your Twitch revenue, sponsorship, or other earnings are from US sources, this means you may already be recouping some or all of the donation costs through tax relief. Canadian tax law... It's kind of weird that she looked up into... Canadian tax law allows donation to US charities to be deducted up to the amount of US-sourced income earned in the tax year, which means the financial burden fulfilling this project may not be as high as it seems. Given this, I hope financial constraints are not the reason for further delays in settling this matter fairly. On the circle court, okay. That part, this means you may already be recouping some or all of the donation cost. This means you may already be recouping some of all the donation costs through tax relief. Well, you guys can come up to your own conclusions on that.
Obligations are honored at everyone. Yeah, so the overall
there is
charity
definitely frustration.
Doki's mouth raised 250,000
on both sides
USD
at this point.
deductions. Doki, right?
And I kind of understand a little bit of both.
Hello, I have not taken any tax deductibles from this
One side a little bit more than the other.
as the money is not mine. I would like to clarify that. And yeah, okay, so this one is a little bit of a tricky scenario because like the way Tiltify works is Doki does stuff.
We already watched
you
that.
think that. By the way, I want to add, Doki I think reads this as as much as you think because there's going to be a write-off about it. So like, you know, you do
it
save
sounds
some money.
accusatory. You guys think it sounds accusatory? I see.
I don't read it as like a personal attack on Doki's moral character, but maybe I read it wrong. Doki says, please understand that my staff and I are trying to work with you, and when you disappeared for 6 months due to medical reasons, your communication with us was lost and mixed up during our swap of management. I have never done any tax deductibles via charity events, as all the donations are given directly via my fans, and it never felt right with using it as tax purposes.
But we need you to think for us. Well, there's some things that I am like, how do you say that? That I am sure of, and I'll say that, but when I'm not sure, I'll also say that. I also think people that are like very confident about everything they say without questioning their opinion sometimes it's like comes off as being egocentric. So I do question myself a lot sometimes. I'm also kind of a dum-dum. The rate they are charging exceeds buying a 3D printer, a vinyl printer, charging for print hours as labor, the parts for the PC, build time, testing time, and shipping time as labor. Terrible. And also, like, there are some pieces we can piece together with the help of chat. Like, people in chat have different knowledge. They have different experience with different types of labor. So it does help to have second opinion sometimes. For example, for PC building. I'm sorry, but when a situation like this happens and then someone asks, is this going fully to charity? It feels like an attack. Oh yeah, absolutely. It feels like the artist is trying to justify themselves charging more by pointing out they can deduct it, as is to prevent Doki from backing out. Well, they are being like, yo, I know this is expensive, but don't worry, I'm sure you can write it off. At the end of the day, it's still money that's going to come out of Doki's pocket. The comments over Kat's videos are calling Doki terrible business manager. Well, there's also a lot of people that are using this as a way to attack Dokibird. Usually, you know, of course, Rainbow Company stands that have had it out for Dokibird for a really long time. We can, look at some comments after this.
As I've never done so ever in my life, and it really saddens me that it was assumed so. I feel like if that was the image you see of me, then I shall remove myself from this conversation, as it deeply hurts to know you think of me this way. I really did want to fix this, as I took time out of my vacation to assist in a matter that my staff told me not to get involved in. Since the communication has gone towards this, my staff will now negotiate with you regarding compensation, and I shall remove myself from the convo.
I don't know the artist, don't know this cat lady, I don't watch Doki, so I'm in the middle. I think everyone needs to drop and move on unless they want to peruse legal actions.
My staff and accountant can vouch I have never used charity as a tax deductible, despite them thinking I'm an idiot for doing so, but charity is what I fully believe in. I want to add also, again, I'm gonna be blunt, I don't care if it was your vacation. Like, it sucks that you had to work on your vacation. You wouldn't have—
Okay, but Kat, you used the vacation excuse when you were under fire from the VTuber community too. You also did that. You also did that. And then you didn't respond and you were like, sorry, I was on vacation.
I've had to work on your vacation. If this was solved earlier, you know what I mean? Like, it taking this long is partially your fault, and it running into your vacation is also partially your fault. Like, it sucks that the artist got sick, right? It happens. But the artist was like reaching out in December about—
No, the artist did not communicate for the project for months too.
being like, how can we move this forward? And this dragged on till the end of January. Basically, because you guys are like a brick wall, Doki and Plus Management #3, where the artist is like, how can we move forward? Here's a proposed rate. Here are the parts. Give me a budget. And they're like, I don't know. Tell me how much it's going to cost. And then I'll tell you budget. And they're like, no, but we need the budget to figure out the parts. And that back and forth, because Management 3 and as an extension, Doki was unwilling to budge on like anything, was what made the communication take this long, which is
before the artist was sick, the artist ghosted. After there was a period between the auction and what the first set of communications that lasted for months. Then they got emailed. Then they said they're dealing with nicotine addiction, which they knew once they took the project, they were already dealing with that. And then after that, there was another set of time that elapsed where they were unresponsive, and that's when they said they've been dealing with medical emergencies.
Why you now had to work on your vacation. Like, it sucks, but I don't want to be like it's your fault, but it kind of is. As an aside, it's very noble to not want to profit off of charity work in any way. I use the term profit loosely, including tax deductions. While I do see the morality in that decision, charity tax deductions exist to incentivize people to donate, as well as providing a legal loophole for tax evasion, which is a whole separate convo. And in my personal opinion, it is perfectly fine to receive deductions as such. In fact, I'd even argue that receiving tax deductions from your charity auctions should be encouraged, as that extra money saved will allow creators like Doki to continue hosting charity events, as well as have an emergency fund of saved earnings.
Okay, whatever, but it's like, Doki can do that on her own. I don't see how this is relevant. It's her decision whether she wants to pass it as tax cut or not. It's between her and her accountant.
So discrepancy situation like this arises. That's the thing. I totally get your moral compass. I get your moral high ground of like charity and all this. Like, it seems like Doki really loves charity. I love that for you. Again, like I said prior, we need more people advocating for charities and donating to charities and hosting events, especially people with platforms. We need that. Your moral high ground of like not wanting to take a tax break is just hurting yourself. Nobody would ever fault you for taking a tax deduction.
Only the buyer is getting a tax deduction. What the fuck's she on about?
Charity, with the exception of, if I don't know, if you're like Trump or something doing some funky
Not financial advice, guys. This stream is not financial advice. I don't know why we're going a full segment and even bothering adding commentary in the Google document about Dokibird's tax reduction.
shit to avoid taxes. That's a whole separate issue. But as a creator who hosts charity events, people want you to host more, and we want you to stress less. So if taking a tax deduction will do both, it's a win-win for everybody. You save more money, so you stress less about finances. Then you get to host more charity events, and we can give more to charity. It's literally a win-win-win all around. My final point still stands, where if you do have this moral ground of you want the charity to get at least the amount the PC is worth, you pay for it out of your pocket, because those are your morals. So why does somebody else have to bend over backwards to accommodate your moral compass? Management 3 then pushes back on the issue of payment. Management 3 says, I have removed Manager 1 and Doki from the convo. Please inform me what services were rendered for the 3.4 thousand quote, and what was the formal agreement. We will not be planning on using the design for the winner's PC, so I would like to know what this entails, as it's almost the same price as the auction itself for a non-delivered item and a mock-up or quote. Dokibird is not involved and does not have input in further discussions, as the staff will now be taking over this matter. which this is dangerous. I think this is very dangerous for the person who is spearheading all of this, essentially Doki, it's her charity, to be out of the conversation. I get it, I guess her feelings are hurt, but this is gonna go to shit because there's no line of sight of Doki. Doki has no line of sight into what was being told to the artist, no line of sight to what was being told to the buyer, etc. And that is how we arrived here. And now that Doki left, Doki will no longer have line of sight to, once again, what is being talked about the pricing and stuff like that. And when you play telephone, going back...
Okay, whatever. A lot of personal opinions inserted here. I'd like to think that the manager is communicating that with Dokibird.
Before a whole bunch of people like this is how you lose information and miscommunication springs up. So Management 3 says, but there have been zero communications during the project. No quote, no asking for feedback or approval. We'd be willing to discuss some sort of payment, but nothing has been shown or delivered from our POV at the moment. And pricing seemed to go up every time we're talking. So please provide me sufficient evidence of work being finished on your end with the next few hours or so. Because at the moment, I have
price
zero to go
keeps
on,
going up every time we talk. Yeah, it's because they're charging for the communications.
your word that things have been completed. This is usually not how to do business. Complete things without a quote, asking for a pretty high amount, more than the charity auction fair market value, and then asking for the work that hasn't been communicated on. Then implying we are unprofessional and the streamer might be pocketing cash, while the bidder, her fan not yours, is still in the conversation and then asking to add him back into the convo while we already decided to not continue from the provided quotes. Manager 3 is icky, guys. A few points.
Oh, so buyer 3 is not in the convo anymore? Thank God. And then asking to add him back to the conversation. Why were they asking to add him back? She's saying manager 3 is icky? I mean, I don't think he's icky. I think he's being pretty honest about their expectations.
Is to add, in the industry, services are paid for regardless of whether they're used or not. Even if there's no intention to use the mock-up the artist made, they should still be paid for the design. Secondly, while this wasn't the intention behind Management 3's work...
Yeah, I agree that they should still be paid for the design. But the design cost $3,500? Like, or 3,000, whatever her cancellation fee was, like that amount in pounds?
Pricing not only includes parts, shipping, and labor, but communication hours are also included in the hourly pricing, as communicating with clients is still labor. Third, mentioning the, quote, charity auction fair market value, end quote, referring to the 3,500 USD is a moot point.
I mean, communicating with client could be considered labor if you told me that communications would be charged. Like, okay, lawyers will charge for communications, but even lawyers sometimes like waive off some communication fees. Even fucking lawyers sometimes work extra hours that are not completely invoiced. I feel like this is... The invoicing on this project is very strict. It feels very strict. And usually, from my experience at least, communications are not charged. I've only ever had that with lawyers, literally. Even my accountant doesn't charge me for asking her question and calling her on the phone. And like all the hours, okay, even if you build the communication hours total, I feel like it's not for the total. It's too much.
As a number has long been debunked as arbitrary. But I want to break this down into a couple more points here that to me rubs me the wrong way. Beyond Dokibird being now out of the conversation because the whole issue was Doki had no line of sight into the communication and thus miscommunication happened. There have been zero communication during the project, no quotes, no asking for feedback or approval. How is that the artist's fault? The artist can't move forward because you guys are the roadblock. And this is straight BS because there have been communication.
No, I'm not saying the artist/builder is lawyer. I'm making the opposite point. I'm saying they're not a lawyer. And only like in the super like high echelon of employment, that's like the only time I've seen something charged for communication. And if it's part of the job, I mean, it's explicitly stated.
There was feedback that was asked every single time the artist provided an Excel sheet, a quote. The artist was like, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want to discuss this further, etc. What do you mean approval? There is no approval because you guys are the roadblock that haven't approved anything yet. This is why nothing has moved forward beyond this. So, debunked. Point number 2. We'd be willing to discuss payment, but nothing has been shown or delivered. You guys received a mock-up last year, because that's when this happened. This all fell apart. You guys received a mock-up. Has the artist not been talking to you this entire time, providing Excel sheets, providing part listing, providing estimates of cost, whatever, discussing back and forth? You are literally in this group chat with eyeballs. Like, how did you not see this? 3, pricing seems to go up every time we're talking. Yeah. 1, the labor cost is going up because the artist felt guilt tripped into lowering their
Yeah, as someone who used to do technical pre-sales, I spent 100+ hours preparing proposals for potential clients that weren't paid for. This is so typical internet drama. The accuser seems so malicious. It seems also worse than an accusation.
prices to minimum wage rates, which, let me remind you, paying minimum wage for the labor cost of building a custom PC, an artisan task that requires an extreme high level of skill from the person who is building.
Okay, well, you know, I can charge $2 per hour and then build 2,000 hours on something that I've spent 2 hours on, and I'd still be racking in money. I mean, the minimal wage thing doesn't work if you're billing an insane amount of hours. Here's my only critique for this young lady. She reads like my boss, boring, so my mind wanders to food, like horse cake. Don't eat horse cake, that's terrible.
It, and you're going to pay minimum wage for that expertise. That is unheard of in the industry. Unheard of. But regardless, the artists felt pressure to lower their prices, and then they felt like, wait a sec, I'm scamming myself. Let me raise my prices to regular prices. Now you're freaking out because the prices are actually fair. 1. 2, the other part is the artist has to block out time. Like, if another project comes up, I don't know if it did happen, right? But the artist is kind of like in this weird limbo with you guys. So the artist is expecting to be working with the next 6 to 12 weeks. And if a project comes in, they likely might not be able to take it because they're expecting this project to start and for them to finish it. And then this is not how to do business, complete with things about a quote. Not them gaslighting the artist about how this is not how to do business, when, again, manager 1 was the one that made the Tiltify, grabbing a random PC part picker list from the artist, using that number with the wrong currency as the estimate price for the build, without even getting the approval.
Also, they lied from the London living wage. It's not £38 an hour. No, £38 an hour was the one the artist wanted to be paid. Horse cake, don't say that.
Of the artist to use this number, and then they're the ones not giving the price to the artist.
Manager 1 fucked up.
Over and over again, the artist and buyer kept asking for a budget over and over and over again. And you guys are the ones that are not giving the budget until way later, which is why things have been so slow. And then implying we're unprofessional streamer might be pocketing cash. No one said that. The artist never said, Doki is pocketing money. The artist said, oh, if you're worried about finances, you can get a tax deduction on this. So the finances is going to be less of a stress for you.
No, they're talking about the charity thing. Is 100% of the money of the charity going to charity? That's what I think that's what they're referring to. When I hire a plumber, they're the one that gives the estimate, not me, before doing anything, and service is only started when there's an agreement. Yeah, same.
Huh? And by the way, again, tax deductions does not mean you're pocketing cash. I'm gonna tell you right now, I take every tax deduction I can. Okay, as an American, tax evasion is illegal, but in avoiding your best cast to add the buyer, the red-blooded American. Sorry, I don't like using that term because then people are gonna think I'm alt-right. I'm not. Fair to ask to add the buyer back into the conversation so the buyer can know what the hell is happening to the PC he paid for. Because at the end of the day, we still have the bidder who is out 6.6K USD with no PC. Management.
The buyer only needs to know if he's gonna receive his parts and to know which parts he wants. That's it. Or is he getting a refund? I don't see why he has to be part of this entire back and forth. That looks awful.
And the artists go back and forth again, with the artist standing firm on their rates and management pushing back. The artist provides screenshots of communication between them and management. 1. Again, the screenshot says, Doki is 100% going to pay whatever you charge for the PC. Once we have an idea of the final cost, we can finalize everything then. That is exactly what manager 1 told the artist. This entire time, the artist...
I mean, maybe manager 1 shouldn't have said whatever you charge for the PC, because then the artist's like, yeah, I'm gonna charge $1 million then. Doki's gonna 100% pay it.
This is under the assumption any budget is okay. The 3.5K is just for PC parts. Doki's gonna pay for it. Only one PC, no deadline. That's what the artist thinks. And another message manager 1 had said, good morning.
In all seriousness, if they got the managers and the artist assistant in there, why is there 0 lawyers in there to help discuss too? I mean, I think that's when lawyers got involved that is like, there's like a point of non-return.
Just want to send a small update. I'll message the winner today to confirm their shipping details and all that good stuff. I'm happy to be the go-between for you both, but if you and the winner are comfortable, I can get you both connected on Discord to streamline things for you guys as far as figuring out specs and stuff. Let me know and make it happen. Secondly, regarding payment for the PC, I know it's probably up in the air at the moment, so we can stay in contact and figure that out as the project progresses, or as we have a more clear idea of projected cost. I did base the market value off your previous builds, and we would like to stay around the general cost for the parts themselves, but would like to give the buyer some wiggle room as far as, you know, potentially go for cheaper RAM stuff. We already read this, but again, I need to show you this again just to refresh the memory.
Yes, but at this time, I feel like shouldn't the artist also have said like something about the market cost for the PC parts? Like, yeah, but you know this doesn't include my wages, right? A little something.
Of what was told to the artist by Manager 1. On this screenshot, Manager 3 says Manager 1, quote, had no mandate to claim that, end quote. There is then discussion on who is responsible for fulfilling this order. Management 3 says it's Management 1's responsibility, where the artist states Management 3 contacted the artist with the intention to pick up the project, indicating they were taking responsibility for it. This is so trippy. Manager 3 says, so far, my calculation says you spent 2 to 3 weeks full days time to create this mockup, and that I think is hard to believe considering Doki just debuted around that time. And mockups usually take 2 to 4 days to complete and aren't a full-time day, 8-hour days.
Spent 2-3 weeks full days time to create this mock-up. 3 weeks to create the mock-up? Mock-ups usually take 2 to 4 days to complete and aren't a full-time 8-hour days. Side note, I do not see any hidden cost that might be attached, and I'm not an artist, hence me asking to clarify this a few times so I can double check this with legal and finance and with other artists in similar space on our end.
Side note, I do not see any hidden costs that might be attached, and I'm not an artist, hence me asking to clarify this a few times so I can double check this with legal and finance and with other artists in similar spaces on our end. We asked multiple quotes. We are not the same company as the previous
120 hours for the art concept?
C tweet, referring to management, because this was Management 3, and there was like a middle Management 2, and then there was Management 1. Yeah, not him like devaluing the artist's work. By the way, again, like what you look at is not just the finished product, the hours it takes the artist to research the PC, to research the builds, to put things together. A lot of research is extra time. That's still time you should be paid for. Dokibird Production and Stakeholders was its own company and wasn't owned by Dokibird. The team that worked there was fired for—
Okay, but if it takes you 3 weeks to research for that, then you haven't built a lot of PC. This person seems experienced in building PC. They said they based it off a previous build, no? Yeah, a concept doesn't take that long. They don't pay for Excel sheets, they pay for PC, which there isn't a single pic or video of them working on it. Doki would pay if actually delivered.
reasons as she got taken advantage of. Hence, she started her own new company. I understand you're not responsible or involved, but I'm trying to inform you since it's relevant information in a business sense. We're a totally different legal entity from the old company. The old company had no official agreements with you, and the new company is looking into this and also have no agreements with you, let alone take over things of the old company. Now, I'm still talking—
I mean, I think they're making this point because the artist is trying to make them pay a cancellation fee
here, since I do think some sort of resolvement should happen, even if we're not legally obliged or obligated, and our conversations haven't been the best. But I can't help but get the feeling that both sides feel taken advantage of. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just weird. This to me reads as gaslighting. Why are you explaining all the nitpicky of like previous management being fired? Again, who cares? That is not the—
Because you're asking for a stupendous cancellation fee that's really high, and they're saying we have no legal obligation to pay this. That's why.
Artist stuff. It's not the artist's job to know this. So all of this information is being presented in the lens of transparency. That's how the Management 3 is framing it. Like, this is just to be transparent. Whereas to me, it, again, reads manipulative. As in, you're trying to push blame off of your shoulders onto Management 1. Again, we've already established ages ago Management 1 screwed up. The point that we need to talk about is who's gonna fix this. And it's Doki and team's responsibility to fix this. But all of this talk, Doki and her team keep going back and forth, like, about how we got here. And that, in my opinion, is done as a way to try to remove the responsibility off their shoulders. Being like, I don't have to deal with it because the previous management did it and I fired them. Well, you gotta put it this way, guys. If I hired somebody and to manage my social media, okay, and they go on Twitter and they start, I don't know, scamming people out of crypto using my Twitter accounts, and I fire them. Yeah, I fired them, but now I have to deal with a whole bunch of people that are down 10K because the previous management—
Well, I mean, this is a PC builder, more of an artist. We're calling it artist for the sake of just easier communication.
did crypto scams on my Twitter account, okay? I am still now responsible to clean up this mess because I hired them. And they were, as a result, my responsibility. And to me, this reads like a whole lot of, I don't want to deal with it. And again, I don't like the saying here of, I get a feeling that both sides feel taken advantage of. So Doki was screwed over by the previous management. We've all agreed on that. They keep talking about it.
Yeah, we could call them a vendor. Yeah,
And
the artist slash builder.
because we agreed on this, like I'm not part of this conversation, right? But they agreed on it like 30 pages ago. They're still bringing it up as a way to like brush off responsibility. But anyways, Doki was screwed over, yes, but what do you mean taken advantage of, right? You hired a management team to run an auction that you didn't double check, so it went live as fucked up as it did. Again, partially your fault, mainly the management's fault. You should have known, but as the big boss up there,
if artists didn't quote parts and labor at start, artist's fault at the end. If the cost exceeded quote, then it's also on artist to... I'm still confused why the first time the artist finally sent them a quote, including labor cost, if you remember properly, it was around 7,000. So how did we get to that number still is beyond me.
but sometimes things slip past your view. Happens. Accidents happen. Who is going to fix this problem? The artist is taken advantage of because they haven't been paid. It's basically, how can I say I'm not going to pay you in like 50 different ways? Management 3 and Doki, but mainly Management 3, keeps bringing up how Management 1 fucked up. Again, like you said, Ham, you can't leverage this information against the artist because that's not the artist's fault. Pay the artist. Management 3 says, we understand that charity is Doki's thing and it might not be your thing and you wish to get paid for services provided, even if there was no agreement, quote, or official signed stuff, which again is all Management 1's fault. But within all reason, the old company had tried to connect multiple times and failed early on for reasons provided out of their control. At that point, things have been put on a halt, not because of Dokibird production. I've seen you take very little accountability on that part when it comes to charging your provided services. With this, I mean, if any customer, which we aren't since there isn't any agreement, waits this long, it's perfectly normal to not be happy with the services and talk about a solution. Further, it took the new company to get back in touch with you, and when things did not go the correct way, more than the fair market value has been asked as services for a mock-up. What would have happened if we didn't get in touch? You can sense we feel taken advantage of for these and some other reasons. This, again, is so icky. Management 3 is gross. Writing here, we understand that charity's Doki's thing and it might not be your thing. You're implying the artist is a shitty person and morally corrupt for not wanting to donate to charity, when it's not their responsibility to donate to charity.
No, they haven't said that at all, actually. What? We understand that the charity is Doki's thing and might not be your thing, and you wish to get paid for a service provided. That's what they said. They didn't say you're morally corrupt for not wanting to donate. They never even implied that, even if you read between the lines.
Because this was your charity auction, and the artist was under the impression they were going to be paid fairly for their services because those words came straight out of Doki's mouth. So what is with all this charity gaslighting? Like, the way I'm gonna crash out feels like I've taken a shot every single time I hear some charity gaslighting. Very sober, but man, again, they're saying, I see you take little accountability on that part regarding how the artist dropped the ball in communication because of their medical stuff. The artist apologized. We saw the artist actively apologize. I'm so sorry for dropping the ball. It is my bad. I read those words. You saw it. Maybe Manager 3 didn't see it because they weren't hired yet. I don't know. But with all philanthropic actions, Doki will benefit from this over time. The artist gain will be minimal. Yeah. The artist is just trying to get paid for their time, man. And then they add, furthermore, it took the new company to get back in touch with you. Yeah, because it is your job to get back in touch with the artist, huh? The artist replied to the email being like, here's the options. Option A, I do the build. Option B, you refund the buyer and find a different builder. I still want to work with you guys. Let me know how to move forward. And then the artist got ghosted. I feel like it's pretty fair for the artist to assume that you guys decided to refund. And again, as the auction host, it's your responsibility to make sure everything follows through. I mean, with any customer, which we aren't since there isn't any agreement. The reason there isn't any agreement is because you guys screwed up. And the artist defending themselves. We are now 11 months out from this happening. The artist says, my services include, but are not limited to, the mock-up design that was created on a rush turnaround. I provided a breakdown of the additional labor and administrative work in the spreadsheet, being...
The first communication was sent on April 3rd, where Manager 1 said, I'll message the winner today to confirm their shipping details. And then, sorry, it's not April, it's January, February, March 4th. And then 3 days later, the artist responds, I'm catching up on messages. Then their last communication is end of March. Then Manager 1 messages them on April 17 with no response. Then another message on May 24th, no response. Then there is the email sent to the artist on June 8th. And on June 18, that's when the artist responded and said, you know, I've been dealing with health issues. But there was a 10-day gap between there's a lot of gaps between their communication. There was a 10-day gap in communications from at least from the DMs. Maybe there's more DMs. I don't know. When they said that they were recovering from a nicotine addiction. And then that's when the artist quotes a 12-week maximum estimation time for the project. That's in June 18, 2024. And then there's just no communication, at least showcase in Catliente's video, until January 2025, where Dokibird herself reaches out to the artist. So what happened in between? Just nothing? Just, was there no response? I don't know.
As transparent as possible about my rates and costs. The proposals, updated hardware list, cost breakdown calculations, project planning and coordination, and other documents are part of the services you requested last month. You are correct, there are no hidden costs involved. To build trust, I've also offered to share previous invoices from similar projects to demonstrate my rates are consistent and aligned with industry norms. I'm not a large company, but rather an academically recognized, published small artist specializing in unique boutique PC builds. My charges reflect the scope, complexity, and quality of the work involved. If this weren't the case, the auction winner would not have bid on the item. Additionally,
my service include but are not limited to mock-up design that was created on a rush turnaround. Oh, so now we're charging rush fee on the mock-up. I provided breakdown of the additional labor and administrative work in the spreadsheet, being as transparent as possible around my rates and costs, the proposals, updated hardware list, cost breakdowns, calculation, project planning / coordination, and other documents as part of the service you requested last month. You are correct that there are no hidden costs involved. To build trust, I've also offered to share previous invoices from similar projects to demonstrate that my rates are consistent and aligned with industry norms. I'm not a large company, but rather an academically recognized... What does academically recognized means for PC builder? Did she like publish a book? Published small artist specializing in unique boutique PC builds. My charges reflect the scope, complexity, and quality of the work involved. If this weren't the case, the auctioneer would not have bid on the item. Additionally, I've consulted a charity manager who works with Tiltify to better understand the situation. From my understanding,
I've consulted a charity manager who works with Tiltify to better understand the situation. From my understanding, the contract between the auction winner and Doki states the winner is to receive a bespoke piece created by me. As per industry standards, the item should be fulfilled by the artist specified in the auction terms unless otherwise stated. While I understand shopping around for quotes, Doki's obligation under the contract is to provide an item created by me as advertised to the customer. The charity in question had no formal relationship with me as the creator. This was an in aid of fundraiser, meaning the funds raised were donated to the charity, but the charity itself had no involvement in managing or fulfilling the auction. Therefore, there should be no discussion of further donation or garnishing my pay, as this falls entirely outside the scope of the charity's involvement. Regarding the separation between Dokibird production and your current entity, while I acknowledge the distinction, the work was initiated under the previous company, and continuity of responsibility is implied through our ongoing discussions and your acknowledgement of the project. We've already addressed the breaches and missteps by both sides regarding my agreement with the previous entity. Despite these challenges, I remain committed to resolving the matter promptly and fairly to ensure the auction winner receives the item they deserve. I'm still open to resolving this amicably and working with you on a fair solution. However, the amount due reflects the work I've completed in good faith and aligns with rates I've charged for similar projects. Edited to try to fix the bullet points. The artist, by the way...
I'm going to crash out. Listen to this. The artist is the one providing the service. It is the service provider's responsibility to set prices and create an agreement, not Doki's. Doki's the client. I mean, fairly, I mean, they're trying to resolve this, but the way they're resolving this is pay me or fuck off, kind of, so...
Oh my god. Patience of a saint! They remain professional up until this day. It is crazy. This artist bent over backwards to try to make the situation happen, reaching out, negotiating, lowering their prices astronomically to minimum wage to try to make it happen. And then as a result, they're just getting it thrown back in their face and being gaslit. Being like, well, you took a cheaper rate. Why didn't you donate to charity? Da, da, da. Saying all this stuff because the artist was like willing to bend over backwards to try to make this happen. And it's just being used as like a gotcha later. This is so icky. The artist says, I've thoroughly considered the situation at hand and unfortunately have to notify you my final quote is the previously stated £8,600. I understand why this is complicating for you all due to managerial changes and the amount of time that's passed. I apologize for wavering on this decision, which may have contributed to miscommunication on the subject. The bottom line here is I'm not going to accept any less than my industry standard rate, and I'm not interested in undercutting other independent artists in the industry. I understand if you'd like to pursue this commission at a different quoted rate, but my compensation is non-negotiable. I'm unfortunately not interested in any further drawn-out dialogue, and therefore will not be responding to anything short of an agreed-upon offer. Thank you, and again, my apologies for any confusion in our time reaching the result. And Manager 3 said,
So you either pay my 3,000 pounds cancellation fee, or you pay 8 grand. Actually, this isn't really trying to be fair. They're throwing this out to drama channels and Twitter people to damage Doki. I assume what happened is they, refused to pay the cancellation fee. So the artist is saying they weren't compensated. But there was no PC built. There was only a mock-up created.
we wish to continue conversations, but without concrete evidence as requested 3 to 4 times before, I cannot go back to the team and even start the further conversation of possible compensation. We requested several things, and these items have yet to be provided to us. If these items are provided, we might be able to assist you. The team also asked why you did not reestablish communication after losing contact upon your own return, and if you did, why was everything put on a halt? Once again, blaming the artist for something that isn't the artist's fault. If you wish to stop communicating on your end, then I cannot further help look for a possible solution between us. If you wish to pursue any legal matters, then please contact Doki's business email, and hopefully you can find your resolution there with Dokibird Production. Please be advised that Dokibird doesn't work underneath them anymore, but they're still fulfilling previous contractual agreements. So here, Management 3 is trying to brush the problems and throw it back onto Management 1. It seemed that the final conclusion moving forward was Doki's management was going to look for another builder to complete the PC build, having not compensated the original artist in the process. They shopped around, potentially going through a PC company before settling on a buyer. Or a builder, sorry. So we have more updates. Now, beyond that, almost 3 months have passed. We're now at the end of April, April 28th. The buyer says, I was given an email for the builder. Finally, ever encountered this email before? Googling has netted me nothing. And they said they
So now the buyer and the artist are in communication. I was given an email for the builder. Finally, ever encountered this email before? Googling has netted me
got
nothing.
the email. The artist says, wait, it's about to be May and you've only just got the builder? They made you wait a whole 5 months. I have to laugh at how ridiculous that is. Goodness me, that is really dreadful. I've never heard of this person before. They don't have any other social media than a YouTube channel. They look like they're a small creator, but it's a bit weird if they're a creator and have no other socials than a throne wish list and an email, which is a Gmail domain. They don't seem to have much of a portfolio for PC builds is something I'm noticing. I'm not sure if it's because the company won't do it. This builder will have to come up with their own design. If even an established company—
I see what's going on. So now the artist is basically telling the buyer, you got scammed because you paid for a PC build that was going to be built by me, and then there's this noob that's going to build your PC instead, is basically what's going to happen here. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it is the buyer who leaked this because he's upset. I don't know. I guess finally the buyer was refunded and was even refunded back $1,000 more for their troubles. So I feel like they should be happy with that outcome. My money is still on the artist leaking this. This artist is BS. For one, the PC parts are overpriced and the labor costs are insane, and they never showed that the work was completed, showed that it's done, that you actually did it. It's easy. It had to be the artist, right?
Company partnered with a famous VTuber can't fulfill her request for as cheap as she wants.
But I feel like it's really scummy that the artist is making the buyer worry and being like, yo, I don't know them. This PC person doesn't have a, I don't know, 200K TikTok like me. If even an established company partnered with a famous VTuber can't fulfill her request for as cheap as she wants it to be, and she won't pay me to do it. Is she referring to Hyde here, the established company? I thought Hyde was only providing the PC case.
Wants it to be, and she won't pay me to do it like she was supposed to. Big concern about this creator being exploited with how much this should cost. Doki shouldn't be trying to undercut industry prices as one of the most famous VTubers in the world. I'm
a bit concerned about how this creator being exploited with how much this should cost. Doki shouldn't be trying to undercut industry prices as one of the most famous VTubers in the world. Big yikes. At industry price, undercutting industry prices. There's no way Dokibird is undercutting industry prices, okay? She's very generous with artists. These prices were exorbitant. Why is the artist shit-talking Doki with the buyer in DMs? That's extremely unprofessional.
The world. Big yikes. Yeah, by the way, so the redacted PC company, from my understanding, Doki and their team had went to this PC company being like, oh, we want this build and we want it for this price. And the company said it wasn't possible. And they quoted Doki at around the same price that the artist had quoted Doki for, being like, if this is what you want, this is how much it's going to cost. The literal company had given a very similar quote.
Doki's team said that they received multiple quotes. That's why they thought this quote was exorbitant, because they've had PC builds before. Doki worked with a PC company. This isn't her first rodeo.
Which is why Doki's team did not go through the PC company. So the buyer responds,
yeah, Doki would have taken the L if it wasn't so exorbitant, I am sure.
Finalized in the sense that parts are ordered and everything, but it wasn't until the last second they're like, quote, okay, here's the guy that's going to build it, send the shipping label here, end quote. Everything was trucking along real slow. And in reply to the artist not having any socials, the buyer says, this appears to be a suggestion from the PC company rather than Doki, I think.
Okay.
I'm still doing a one-on-one correspondence with Doki. The group chat with the company never ended up happening. I honestly don't know how much the creator is being paid. That part was never mentioned to me. I suppose it's just interesting how this is coming back to bite her in the butt, since from the time when the part list was finalized, which fit into her budget, to now, the final amount she had to pay for parts has increased like a third. Honestly, I think I got an email address
Okay.
within a day of me asking for at least a fourth time about shipping info. For example, tips carriers type of shipping, because I told them I was leaving the US soon to travel and I wanted it to be set up before I left. Doki suggested that I even wait until I come back. I'm like, no, we are now almost in May and the auction happened the first week of March last year. We are now 14 months out. And then May 7th, the buyer has an update. So Doki ordered stuff from Amazon and didn't realize it got canceled because Amazon thought it was fraud because it was shipped to the builder in the US while Doki lives in Canada. And the builder didn't even know it was supposed to be directly.
It does that. It does that when the billing info doesn't match the shipping info, yeah.
They shipped to them. And apparently them pinning the PC company rep twice still didn't get an answer. And the artist says, what? This is such a colossal train wreck. I'm impressed. And the buyer says, it's a stupid game of telephone. Me communicating with Doki, which will communicate with the PC company rep, which communicates with the builder. But at least now it's me communicating with Doki, who communicates with the rep, who communicates with the builder, but there is now a line of communication between the buyer and the builder. And the artist says, I feel so bad for you and the builder. And the buyer says, sad face, I forgot what you said, but you were right. They did shop around for the cheapest they could get, aka free. And the artist says, what do you mean free? And the buyer sends the message from the builder, which reads, I'm sorry if they told you a certain date, but I clearly told them I can't give a date if I don't have the rest of the parts. I can't control anything out of my control. I am at their mercy since they handled ordering and logistics. I am just a builder, a free builder at that. Conclusion. This seems to be a situation that completely got out of hand due to the faulty charity auction setup from the first management, alongside miscommunication from constant changing management and mismanaged expectations of how this would go down. It also does appear there's misaligned expectations with the artist who's very familiar with working with industry and PC builds, entering into this relationship thinking it would be a casual relationship with the VTuber, and Doki's management and potentially Doki by extension thinking it was a professional relationship. A fair amount of miscommunication stems from the—
It's crazy that Catliente is writing this Google Doc to tear down Dokibird or to make her look bad. That's just wild.
The original $3,500 quote pulled by management one from a previous build of the artist, which used the wrong currency, only included PC parts, and didn't account for the fact that build pricing is not interchangeable one to one. There also was no mention of Doki wanting a duplicate of each item. This becomes irrelevant later as Doki ended up getting a custom PC through other means, and this serves as another point of miscommunication. Due to
See, she even says this becomes irrelevant later, yet she made that point like 5 times in the doc.
Management changing midway, there was also misunderstanding between artist and management 2 as to whether the build was even continuing at all. Management 1 also made it extremely clear to the artist that Doki would be completely paying for the build, but future management would not have the same understanding, expecting the artist to then donate the computer. And finally, there was a misunderstanding about budget and who was paying for what, with the buyer willing to cover the difference of upgrading the expected PC parts to the top of the line items they wanted and pricing of the artist's hourly rate, with expectations of the artist not charging for labor at all to the minimum wage to then the artist's standard rate in 2024 of 32 British pounds per hour. It seems like a colossal series of missteps, with Doki management not wanting to step up as the bigger person to remedy the issue. To this day, the artist has not been compensated for their labor, nor has the bidder received a PC. And
I'm sorry, but I don't buy the 3 hours, the 3 weeks of labor for just the mock-up and communications and quotes. Yeah, compensated for their labor. She made it sound like before watching the video, I thought they were talking about like that she made the PC case for free and Doki never paid them. That's not even what happened. There was no labor.
There's a new builder who's doing the build for free. So yeah, the way it reads to me is that overall this charity was started as a good intention charity to raise money, and it has divulged into this crap fest where through means either Doki or Management 3 or both did not want to pay the artist for what the PC build
and
would
the
fully
rush
cost.
mock, how can it be a rush mock-up but also take 3 weeks? Like, this statement is contradictory in itself.
And they hop through as many hoops as possible to avoid that by trying to gaslight the artist into it's charity so you should donate it, into charge minimum wage, all of this other stuff, and then trying to push blame onto Management 1 as a way to try to like not take responsibility for this whole PC situation divulging into the way it does. And everything completely fell apart. And at the end of the day, everyone loses except Doki and the charity, essentially, right? Doki did the charity stream, so as a result received like the accolades for doing the charity stream, and then the charity received the
I'll say I feel like Doki's team should have compensated her for the mock-up, but I think they wanted to compensate her for the mock-up, but then she ended up charging them £3,000 for the mock-up. So there was like no middle ground, you know? Yo, I'm gonna cancel this project, but you already made the sketch, so let me compensate you for the sketch at least. All right. Here's a $3,000 bill. Okay. Well, we just hit a wall.
The money, which is fair. That was the end goal at all. But now we have an artist that is not paid for all the time and labor they put into this. We have a bidder who is out 6.6K without receiving a PC, with no line in sight for still receiving the PC because there's still issues with this new builder. And that's
Hi,
where it stands
Arthur.
today. At the end of the day, a lot of people might be like, is this a moral situation, right? Is Doki a bad person? I don't think Doki is a bad person. I think Doki handled this poorly. Is this one situation
And the mock-up is not like a 3D mock-up either. It's a drawing.
Representative of who Doki is as a human being? No, right? I don't know Doki as a person. But this is going to sound so privileged, but Doki is a big creator. Is money this big of an...
The only evidence of labor they receive is the mock-up delivered March 3rd, 2024. What did the artist do for that whole year? They claimed they couldn't continue the project because they didn't have the quote. But then they said that they need to done so far. So I don't know. This is such a messy situation.
An issue, as in the moral high ground of wanting to make sure the price of the PC matches what the charity got, then why couldn't you donate the difference to charity and pay for the PC? And now it's all done. Just pay out of pocket, take the loss and call it a day. Or do a payment plan or something. Like, I don't know. To me, it just feels so icky to see a bigger creator just like over and over again, them and their management, right, try to gaslight the artist into taking a much lower rate. I would love to hear your thoughts about all of this. Who do you think is at fault and what do you think is the best solution for this? At the end of the day, a whole bunch of people got burned in the process, which really, really sucks. And hopefully this could get resolved soon, guys, because this has been going on for 14 months, by the way. No resolutions, whatever. And like people seem to be saying that Doki is independent now, so I don't even know if this manager 3 is still working with them, etc. But this is just unfortunate. If you like the video, I appreciate it. If you like it, subscribe. I don't know if I'm gonna make the doc public. I might not. Never made a Google Doc call out before, but yeah, I have a VGen if you want to check me out there. I also
Google Doc callouts. Kind of cringe. Wait, is my stream been cutting out? Am I have I been buffering this whole time? No, really? Yikes. Well, I did have a driver update today, but then the stream started, so I didn't dare update the driver. Alright, let's see what people posted in my Discord rat dump. If you guys want to be part of the discussion or contribute opinions or information, feel free to join discord.gg/Rima. Got another opinion from a builder. Let's see. In USD, a build like that, even with some upgrades too, such as a 5080 and a 9900 times 3D, as well as 64 gigs of RAM, would cost around 3,500 to 4,000 USD max for labor. That